what is your take on Airbnb? Like, I've seen people talking about how the whole market is melting down.
Everything that you can think of that you would normally see in a scam is present in this. No experience, make a lot of money, and it's gonna last forever.
What do you think about Trump's charge of the fraud charge?
I can tell you this. My day job is a lender, so I'm a commercial lender. I've been doing that for about 16 years. I got into it right after I got out the Air Force, and I just started basically from trying to get into real estate. I wanted to get into flipping, and then I couldn't get into flipping because I had no money. And so I remember speaking to a mortgage broker, and she was telling me that, like, why don't you just start financing? And I was just clueless. I had no idea what it was. So she kind of walked me through, kind of mentored me through that. And I got into it. And from that point on, I just kind of, just took off and read every single piece of literature I could on it, and and then evolved to a mortgage banker to a lender. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
So did you ever start flipping houses? Did you ever flip anything?
No, I never started flipping houses. The closest to I've never flipped a house. The closest that I do, I just invest. So I buy like apartment complexes and duplexes, things like that, long-term rentals. That's the type of investor I am when it comes to real estate, long-term investor. So I'm really big into apartment complexes and multifamily.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say it's flipping's risky. It can be risky.
Very.
What's funny, it's like anything. Like the more experience you have in it, then the less risk there is. Because you've hit one problem after another problem, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
So, but yeah, I remember the first property I had. I don't think I had any money. The first property I flipped, and we got a hard money guy because I partnered with somebody who had borrowed from this guy before. But if I just gone in cold, a lot of these guys, just go find a hard money guy. Listen, if you've never done it, so you're going to go tell this guy, I've never done this before. I found a house. I need you to lend me the money. I feel like I've got it figured out. He's going to be like, yeah, listen, like until I've lent to you or you've been. So, usually it's kind of like you'll partner. I guess if you knew the hard money guy, but who does? So, right. But if you grabbed somebody who's connected with him, and then you were just it's you and him flipping the property. You say, look, I'm going to do the whole thing and I'll give you a percentage, but you got to hook me up with a hard money guy to get the money. Then you buy the house, you renovate it, you put it on the market, and you sell it. And then the guy feels comfortable with you. So then he'll lend to you again. Look, I had such great relationships with some of these hard money guys. Like they were, after 5-6 deals, I could call them up and say, listen, I got a property. I don't know. I'm trying to think of this one property. I'm probably going to get the numbers all wrong. But I remember it was like $40,000. This was 20 years ago in Nashville. I was like, I need $40,000. I'm going to lose my deposit in a couple of days if I don't get the money. Because I thought I was refinancing another property and I'd have the money and I didn't. I was like, look, can you just send me the money? And he's like, man, I'm leaving. I'm going on vacation tomorrow. And he goes, just send me the address and I'll wire the title company the money so you can close. Never went out to look at it. Never. But I'd done 5 or 6 deals and I'd always paid on time and I'd always paid them back. And it's never been a problem. And the big thing with him too, is I remember if something was going to happen, I always called him beforehand. Like I was like, hey, I need a payoff. We're supposed to close Friday.
Right.
He's got, this guy's got probably a dozen loans out at one time. And then I would call him on Thursday and say, listen, these people's financing fell through. And it's probably not going to close till next week. If even then, might be another 2 weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and courier your payment over to you. Because I was closing like the same day my next payment was due. He was like, you know what I'm saying? Because he was like, okay, well, you don't have to do that. You can just mail it. And I was like, no, it's due on Friday. I want to pay it on Friday. Like I was so overly, transparent about everything that was going on, where I've known guys who they'll pick up the phone and they're like, oh man, that's my hard money lender. was supposed to pay him his first payment, or I was supposed to pay one of the payment like on Monday, and it's Thursday, and I haven't paid him yet. And it's like, and you're not answering the phone? Like,
That
he's, well, because here's what happened. I'm like, then tell him that. He understands that. But don't not tell him. This isn't the bank where if you miss your payment, like the CEO's not laying in bed at night going, Matt Cox didn't make his payment yesterday. You're not just, he's not a CEO. He knows every single person he's lent money to. And if you
of
just
course he
explain to
does.
him, look, bro, here's what happened. Boom, 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 boom. I don't have the payment. I'm supposed to be getting some money in on Tuesday. I can pay you on Tuesday. I'm so sorry. And I understand there's a fee and it's out of my control. I apologize. He'll feel better and he'll be like, good, this isn't somebody who's ever going to run from me. That's a
Yes.
big problem with them. And I was going to say, the other thing is, I've known hard money guys who have gone to people who were behind and said, listen, you're behind. Quit claim deed the property over to me, but don't make me foreclose on you. If you do,
Right.
and I sell the property, I'll find somebody that will finish the renovations. I'll sell it. If I don't lose any money on the property, then the next time when you get your shit together and you come back to me, I'll lend to you again. But if you make me foreclose, not only will I not lend to you again, I'll make sure that everybody around here knows what happened and that I had to chase you. And I've known guys that have done that, and 6 months later, they've lent to the guy again because the guy was like, "Look, I'm going through a divorce. Here's what happened. My wife emptied out the bank account. She ran up one of my credit cards. That was a credit card I was using to finance the renovations. And just lay it out like he understands. Like, I get it. Just be
Yeah.
honest. Like, that's a big
Yeah.
thing.
It is, and that's what I tell a lot of clients. Like, listen, communication is key. If you just can communicate with me and let me know is what's going on, we can work from that part. But if I'm chasing you and the workout team is calling you and they're saying, "Hey, Orlando, we can't get in contact with this person. They haven't made a payment." Or what's worse is that first payment. You don't make that first payment, man,
No, you're a
it's
problem.
you're on the fast track to foreclosure.
Right.
Like, it's and not only that, but if you don't answer the phone, you don't do any of that stuff, it's big. And I tell people all the time, like, listen, I don't have time to chase you around. We went through the process to get you the loan. We got you the loan. I gave you the money. I don't have we close, like, I don't know, we do about 50, 60 million a year in volume in closing, and I just don't have time to be chasing individual people around. Like, if you don't have enough sense, in my opinion, to communicate and let me know what's going on, then we're just gonna get your property foreclosed on, and let's move on.
Right.
So I really tell people to communicate. Communication is a big key. And a lot of times what people don't understand is just in the foreclosure processing, there's a lot of time for you to actually step up and say something,
Right.
right? If you don't say anything during the entire process and before the process, when I was calling you, telling you that you missed your payment, then obviously you don't want the property.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, if it's funny too, sometimes, because I've had this happen where I was flipping, like, literally I had probably 3 or 4 properties going, and 2 of them were supposed to close. They didn't. Okay. So they didn't close. My credit cards are maxed. I don't have the money. And the one guy that lent me money on one property, I just went to him and I said, look, here's the deal. I'm waiting for no, I've got the money for your payment. Like, I've got a little bit of a cushion, but
Yep.
this one property, I'm now having to stop renovating it. I'm going to use some my reserves to pay you. And I'm hoping that one of these 2 loans closes the next couple weeks. And I was like, but I'm basically using my reserve money to make the payments to you. And I have to stop renovating it. And he went, let me come by the property. He comes by the property. He walks through it. And he's like, okay, you got the roof on. You've got the drywall in. You got the windows in. So what do you still have to do? And I was like, well, he's like, what, you're wood floor, you're flooring, you're this, you're that. I'm like, yeah, I'm working on this. He's like, what's that going to cost? I was like, it's like 15 grand. And he went, all right, come by tomorrow morning. I'll write an addendum to the contract. I'll lend you the 15,000 so you can keep working. And we'll just put an addendum and I'll have my secretary notarize it. It's fine. Like, if I hadn't been honest with that guy, that could have been the end of me. Think about it.
That could
I'm
have
using
been.
my reserves. What if these 2 properties don't close?
It's over.
Now, luckily, a week and a half later, one closes. I'm good. We're back on track. But that guy, it's funny, even though I was actively committing fraud in multiple other areas, he used to always say, look, you're super honest with me. You're always very upfront. I've never had to chase you. And it was like, you're a very honest guy. And I'm thinking, ha, I got you fooled. I've been honest with you.
That's
Trust me,
funny.
your time will come. No, but yeah, it's yeah. So I was gonna say with hard money, especially any lenders, it's just like be honest with, just be honest up front. Like it's in
Yeah.
my best view, it's in my best interest to lend if I'm the lender to lend you the money.
Right.
Nobody
Right.
wants to
Right.
lend you that money more than me. Like I don't make money if I can't lend it. But be honest
Yeah.
with
Not
me,
only
we'll work something out.
Yeah, not only that, but I think especially because for me, I do a lot of the underwriting and whatnot, and so we see a lot of things. I see a lot of people lying going through the process line, like, oh, what's your criminal? Do you have a criminal record? Oh no, I've never had one, or this or that. And I always try to tell individuals that, look, you think you can hide things, but you can't. Like if it's on record, and all I got to do is just when we pull up the background check, when we pull up all these reports, it's gonna show up. And I've had individuals give me bank statements, and if they were fake bank statements, and then it doesn't even, the balance doesn't even add up at the bottom. Like you can see the lines where they copied and pasted numbers and all this other stuff, and you just be like,
Amateurs.
why?
Dude, when I owned the mortgage company one time, I remember this husband and wife came in.
Uh-huh.
And my broker, I had a broker that was doing the deal with him. He comes into my office and he goes, check this out. And he gives me these 2 W-2s. Everything across the board was identical. Even the staple marks in the upper corner that had been copied,
Yeah.
they're not there, but like even the smudge, everything
Yeah.
except for their name. And if you make a copy of a copy and you have a line, the
Yes,
drum tends to warp the lines.
it does.
So the, everything is warped slightly, but their names are like perfect. And
Mm.
I just went, I called them in. I said, listen, like I literally in front of them held it up to the light. I know what you're trying to do. And hey, good. You did pretty good. You're clearly not, you're clearly not a professional at this. And I'm like,
Right.
who's answering the phone when I call? If I call right now, AAA Towing, which is what they said they worked for. I said, I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming you own this company. They're like, if I call right now, who's going to answer the phone? Will someone answer AAA? No, someone will answer. I said, are you sure? I'm positive. So I call.
Mm-hmm.
Hello? Hello. Hi, is this AAA? Oh, yeah, AAA Towing. Is your mom answering the phone? Like, listen, I called it over the next 2 weeks. I told mom to take care of your W-2s. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm going to take care of the pay stubs. Don't even provide me pay stubs. Like, God knows if you just buy it.
Man.
And then I was like, I'm going to call. And then I called like 2 or 3 times over the next 2 weeks. And the mom just kept answering the phone. Hello. Hi, is this AAA? Oh, it's AAA. And so finally I was like, look, I'm just gonna change the phone number and list it in the business directory. You could use to be able to do that. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'll just have them call my phone number and I'll just answer it. Cause well, no, I can no, bro, you've done enough. Like I'm gonna make about $4,500 on this. So we're not leaving it in your hands. But yeah, people are. It's so funny when they try and do stuff themselves. It's just like, stop, bro. What are you doing? Like, you're not proficient at this. Like, what do you think? You're going to change the 5 to a 4, or the 4 to a 6, or like all the numbers have to change across the board. Like, they're going to get caught. Anybody who's really looking is going to catch you.
Listen, and they get caught all the time. So I see it and I go, what is this? It doesn't you say your balance at the very end of it is $20,000, right? Let's just say it's $20,000. But then when you add up everything, it's like it doesn't even add up to the 20. So what's going on? Are what's even that page left intentionally blank? That gets people all the
Or I was going to say, my favorite is like, oh, my check, it gets direct deposited. You're like, right, but you gave me a check for, $1,800 every 2 weeks, but I can see that, $940 is getting direct deposited every two
Mm,
weeks. Like it
mm.
doesn't match the pay stub you gave me doesn't match the direct deposit for the bank account that you told me. And then they're like, you can just see it in their face. Oh, 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 I, that's like, stop, bro. You're not good at this. Like, stick with, towing cars or whatever your job is. Like, I, not that you would do any of this. Obviously, I'm the guy they
Of
want to
course
bump
not.
into. You're the guy that they're trying to avoid. You're like, look, you don't get the income ratio. You're not getting a loan. To me, I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm going
I
to,
see it all the time, and I always tell people like, especially when it comes to the line about criminal history and stuff like that. Oh, what happened? Oh, well, 10 years ago this happened. It's always some long drawn out story about how they were like falsely accused and all this other stuff. And but what's the weird thing about it is that when you fill out an application and it asks you, have you had any criminal history in XYZ time, and you mark no on there, and then when I find out about it, now you want to tell me the story, you lied on the application, so you're automatically disqualified. So, you know, I try to let them, oh, no, 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 listen, I didn't know you meant the last 10 years. I thought you meant this time. It just gets ridiculous. And I see it all the time.
so
All the time.
I have a question because on like
Yeah.
residential loan applications, right? Like basically the one that I mean, these aren't commercial. This is, residential, right? The
Right.
1003, like
Oh yeah.
they don't ask for criminal. You know what I'm talking
Oh
about? Like
yeah, they
Fannie
do. At the
Mae.
very end.
Oh, the
It's at the
Fannie Mae
very end.
Freddie Mac one. What during the question? So now they ask, do you have a criminal
They
record?
do.
They
They
used to
do.
never
They ask
ask
if you
that.
they ask if you've had have you had any arrest or any have you been in trouble with the law in the last, I think on the bottom it says 14 or 15 years.
Really?
So yeah, they ask, and so you have to answer the question yes or no. And most, I mean, some people will lie about it because they'll be like, oh, they're never going to find out. Or maybe they think to themselves like, oh, well, I wasn't formally charged or whatever. But what happens is when we do the background search and whatnot, we see all of those things of like, oh, maybe you had domestic violence, and yeah, it didn't go anywhere, but it's still on your record. Like what's going on with that? And or what's even worse is a lot of times you'll see individuals who has some type of fraud, let it be against with the federal government. They did some type of fraud, let it be like SBA loans or student loans or whatever. You see something like that, and you just go, yeah, there's nothing I can do for you. It doesn't really. As soon as I see that, it's over.
Right.
It's done. Like you're not going anywhere.
Right. One of my charges, my first charge ever was uh it was government. It was wire. It was like defrauding the federal government. Like they took the wire fraud and they made it like wire fraud against the U.S. government. It was an odd,
Mm,
because my I don't know what my lawyer was trying to um, prove by having me sign for wire fraud against the federal government, which was weird. It's like, why not just wire
woo,
fraud? Like why
woo,
didn't we?
man,
What
against the
like I
federal
didn't.
government, man.
Yeah, I was like, well, what are you talking? Like that wasn't my charge at all. It was, but he had me sign, and I remember he didn't want me to claim. He didn't want me to plead guilty to bank fraud. He's like, well, it's got a 30-year maximum or something. It's like, okay, yeah, but I
Mm,
can't even. But based on the federal sentencing guidelines, like I'm not even close to that. I can't even get. I'm getting probation. So I guess he was like
right.
trying to argue that I don't want him to plead something that could get him 30 years. Like, it can't get me 30 years. I didn't steal any money. There was no money loss. Like, what are you doing? I think he was trying to justify the 75,000 I gave him or something. I'm not sure what he was thinking.
Right.
But yeah, I could see. So I think one of my charges is fraud against the United States government or wire fraud against the United States government, which is weird. But I borrowed money since then. I had borrowed
Mm,
many, many loans since that time.
mm.
But
Is that private, like hard
this
money
was
guys, or
20
is that
years.
like
This was 20
institutional?
years ago. But this was
Ah,
20 years ago.
see, 20 years ago you can get away with, though, honestly. 20
Right.
years. And here's the thing. Actually, you can get away with it. It's not that like if you mark the box, you're automatically denied. you just have to be truthful about it, right? You have to be
Right.
truthful, and you have to and what I'm going to ask for is I'm going to ask for, let's see those documents that, let's say you defrauded the government. Let's see, was there any money lost? There's rules associated with that, with getting a loan from me or from any bank, to if you had those type of charges.
Right.
But what the problem that I run into is the lying. Once you lie, then you can't get anything. It doesn't matter what the story is.
Right.
It's over.
What about, well, I was going to say, and but a lot of guys like lie like it's drugs, but like they don't care about drugs. Like if you say, oh, I was arrested for marijuana, or right, like they're not going to
Oh,
not give you a
man, I get
loan
that
for the marijuana.
so I get that so much. Marijuana charges where someone, 10 years ago, they were young and they had some type of whatever, some small charge, and they lie about it.
Right.
That's the thing. They lie. Like it wouldn't mean anything. It really wouldn't. It would be like, oh, you got in trouble because you got caught with marijuana 10, 15 years ago or 7 years ago. It is cool, whatever. But you
A
lie
lot.
about it. And once you lie about it, you look at the bottom of these applications and it says, to your knowledge, this stuff is true, blah, 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 blah. If you lie, this is against the law, all this other stuff. So if once you lie about that, it doesn't matter if it was 50 years ago. It's over.
It's funny. I'd read some, I forget what the statistic was, but it was basically women who had been like cheated on, right?
Mm,
Like they weren't concerned about the cheating. They were concerned that you lied about it. It was like, what? Like men don't care that you lied about it. They care that you cheated. It was
right.
just so funny. It was like, what you did is what's bad. But for women, it was like, nah, I don't care about that. What I care about is that you've been lying about it for 6 months.
Mm.
Now I don't trust you. And it's like, I guess for men, they're like, yeah, I never trusted you. But you slept with someone. No. So,
That was it, right? That
right.
was it.
So let's, can we kind of, because we're just going back and forth at this. What about,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I had seen a video. Well, I guess I saw the topic of the video and I watched a little bit of the video. This was after, this was when, after JT recommended you to me. Actually, I'd
Mm.
seen you and he talking one time. You guys talked for, it was like an hour and change. And you guys were talking about another, what were you talking about? You were talking about a scammer. And you guys
Mm.
were laughing nonstop about the scammer, mocking him.
Yeah.
And but anyway, when I looked at your stuff, I did see something on Airbnb. That's why beforehand when we were talking, I was like, well, I know you've done videos on Airbnbs because
Yeah.
I had seen them on your channel. So
Yeah.
what is your take on Airbnb? Like, I know when they first started, everybody was just making tons of money and they were amazing. And they were wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the last year, I've seen people talking about how like it's the whole market is melting down. What is the
Yeah.
issue?
Well, the issue is this: is that, first of all, Airbnb, the way that at least it was portrayed in social media, and what brought so many people into the market of Airbnb, was the fact that, you could get started with no money. It was easy money. All these things, everything that you can think of that you would normally see in a scam is present in this. No experience, make a lot of money, and it's going to last forever, right? And so you would see individuals who were getting properties and doing this arbitrage where you don't have to own the property. Basically, you would go, just imagine if you went to a landlord and you said, hey, I'm going to sublease, I'm going to rent this from you, and then I'm going to sublease it from you and rent it to someone else. That's what's basically going on. So individuals would basically go into an apartment complex or single family or duplex, and then they would rent it, right? And then they would take that and then put it on Airbnb, and then have people pay them to do their vacations or stay there. And I was trying to let everybody know that this is it's not going to work. Like, first of all, you're going to run into the landlord issue where most of the landlords didn't even know that their tenant were taking their properties and putting them on Airbnb. They had no clue, right? And then you're going to run into the number one thing that I was trying to tell everybody is the cities. The cities aren't going to allow Airbnb just to come in and take over the residential areas where they versus the hotels that they've paid, tons and tons and tons of money to, giving them all types of tax rebates and all this other stuff so they could be in a zoned area. They're not going to allow you to cut into their sales tax. They're not going to allow that to happen. They're going to put rules in place to say you're going to get charged taxes just like a hotel. They're going to limit you on how many people can be in this area, because no matter what anybody believes, a city is a business too. A city wants people to travel, live there, have schools. It wants to have a whole ecosystem, right? It's not an ecosystem once you turn, a neighborhood and 95% of the houses there are Airbnbs. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to live next to a guy who you're going to have 300 different neighbors in the whole year. Nobody wants to do that. So I was really pushing this, letting people know, first of all, it's not as easy as you think it is. Second of all, it's hot right now because it's the pandemic. And everybody has money in their pocket. Everybody is traveling to vacations and all this other stuff. So it's super easy. But once everything slowed down, which is currently what's happening right now it's 90% no bookings. What do we do? Giving back properties. And so that's where we are right now.
Well, I was going to say the other thing issue with him was it sounds like, oh, you don't need anything to start it. Well, I don't know about you, but furniture is not cheap. Even
Right.
even cheap furniture isn't free. So,
Right.
And most of those places are financed pretty nicely. So you're spending at a minimum, if it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, you're spending at least what, $5,000, maybe 10 to 15. And that's still doing it on the cheap. Of course, if it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath or 3-bath, and you can't complete crap in there. And most of the ones I've been in, but IKEA is not even cheap.
It is not.
It's not cheap really. Once you start stacking up, 2 end tables, the bed frame, the mattresses, all the linen, plus the couch. Like, you start adding up, man, you're looking at $10,000-$20,000.
It is.
So it's not an investment of nothing. It's $5,000 to $15,000 on a small one. It's $10,000 to $20,000 in furniture. Let's say it's $10,000 in furniture. Because cheap, actually, because like flat screens and stuff, they're pretty cheap. If you could maybe do you could probably buy a bunch of stuff on OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace. You're still going to spend $5,000 to $10,000, even if you do it super cheap, and you could knock that out. Assuming you have a truck to deliver this stuff, you're picking it up. I mean, you're going to dump a ton of time and some money into it to get it started. If it stays rented, that's probably great. But at some point, well, like you said, it is now. It's starting to kind of collapse. And now what? Now I got a house full of furniture that I can't rent out for my mortgage or my rent. So,
or what's even worse is you would have individuals, like I said, they would tear up the property and they're just sucking all the money out of it doing the Airbnb. And then when the landlord finds out, they hand back the property to them and the property is torn up. Now the landlord has to sue the guy who lived there, and it just turns into this whole big thing. And then what you would see is these Airbnb hosts that would come onto YouTube or any social media, and they'd be like, I have 1,000 Airbnbs or 60 or 100 Airbnbs, but they don't own not one. They don't even own one. These are all arbitrage properties where they, are renting and subleasing them out. And eventually that's going to fail. Like, there's just no way you can uphold that. And so I've been just letting everybody know, like, real estate is not easy. And that's the thing. A lot of people think that you could just get in with no money down. You could have horrible credit. Everybody just can pile into real estate. And I try to let people know it's not that easy. And I know that's not what people want to hear, right? They don't want to hear that. They want to hear that it's super easy, that you don't need anything. You can just make money grow out of nothing. But that's not how it works.
Yeah, I used to say that all the time, like because I taught the real estate class for like 10 years in prison. And one of the things I would do when I'd walk in there, I'd be like, listen, like, I know you guys have seen those commercials where it's like, I bought this property for $1, and, that whole thing. I was like, and the truth is, I'm like, look, I'm not going to lie. That's not the case. You're going to need some money, so, because these guys, well, what if I had $2,000? That's not going to be enough. Like, I'll tell you how to take the 2,000, fix your credit, and be able to borrow 20 grand, to be able to leverage your credit into flipping properties. But you're not buying a property, and that's tight. But you're not going to buy a property for nothing down. You're not going to flip it for nothing down. You're not going to convince
Of course.
the roofer to put the roof on and wait 3 months, and the drywall like that. Like, it sounds good, and I could lie to you. I'm like, I could lie to you guys for the next few years, and you'd believe me, but that's not the case. So let's start at the beginning. It takes work. And listen,
It
every
does.
property I've ever had that I flipped, let's say I bought it for 50,000.
Right.
I put 25 in it. Sold it for 100. And right now you think you made $25,000. Boy, are you wrong? Because I had to make 4 months worth of payments on that $75,000 that I borrowed to get the 50 or the 65, because I only got 65% LTV based on 100,000. So my payment every month was roughly $650 to $1,000 a month. Plus I didn't, the 75 or the 65,000 you borrowed, you had 2 points on that, maybe 3 plus. So, you start adding it up. Plus in some cases you had to help the person with their down payment or with the closing costs. So now I had to pay 3,000 of my 100,000 towards your closing costs. Like, you start adding it up, before you know it, you walk away with 15 grand. And listen, if you thought you were going to make 25, mentally in your mind, you've spent 30, and then you get 15, you feel like I just got screwed out of 15 grand. And it's never like it is. It's never like it is on the TV shows. You show up and you say, fix this, fix that. That's perfect. And then you come back 3 days later or after the commercial break, and everything's done. And you say it's beautiful. It's not.
Oh, good old HGTV magic.
Yeah. It's kids are knocking holes in the wall. They're getting in and throwing rocks through windows. Your air conditioner gets stolen twice. We used to have to put our air conditioners in prison. We used to have to build little cages around them, because they were stolen so much. Used to have pour concrete pads and bolt them to the pad, bolt them to the wall, because they would get stolen so often. Or we'd have to wait till after closing to put the outside air conditioner in.
Isn't that horrible?
Yeah. Or some guy falls off the roof and suddenly he wants to sue you, and you're like, why? Why are you suing me? I don't understand. Because the guy that you hired to do the roof hired illegals, and he doesn't have workman's comp, and now the illegal alien wants to sue you. And you're like, what's going on? How is it my fault you don't have a workman's comp?
And not only that, but with the Airbnb thing, that's the reason why I'm against the whole syndication thing too. Like, I mean, I guess there's a place for all of them, but for the most part, at least the way that it's marketed on the internet, it just doesn't. When I do the numbers, and I look at some of these syndication deals, because I'm a real estate nerd and I love to just look at the numbers and see, okay, if someone's doing this, like, there has to be like what's the prize at the end? What's the reward for me if I was to invest in it? And I just do that, and it just doesn't. The numbers don't make sense at all for these syndications. I just break them apart and I look at it and say, because in my view, syndications, you're gonna make the person who's gonna make all of the money is the people who are creating the fund. First of all, most of them don't put their own money into it. So any fee that they make on it, which is a guarantee, these guys are going to make fees. They're making fees off of nothing, like nothing. What is that rate of return?
Right. Yeah.
It's insane. It just doesn't make sense. They don't care if the property fails. They don't care if they give the property back. They don't care about any of that stuff, because at the end of the day, they've made all of their money in fees, and they can turn over the property and just do the same thing over on another property.
Right. I was going to say, they just kick, and if you complain, they'll just kick you off the app.
Oh, they will. They will.
Like, oh, that guy's a problem. Hold on. Bloop. Like, you don't have to hear about him anyway. You can't even call anybody at Airbnb. They'll send us a text.
Nope.
Like,
Nope.
I love that. Like with YouTube, something goes wrong. Like, you can complain. It's like, to who? You're not talking to anybody. You're going to send an email and come back and say the same thing. You violated our the agreement, the policy agreement, or whatever.
Community guidelines.
Right. How? You violated the community guidelines. How? You violated the community guide. Review the community guidelines. It's a book. Like, give me a hint. But
nope, zero hit.
Yeah, no hints. That's not how this works.
Uh,
Um, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, you know what's funny about Airbnb is I heard this the other day, which I thought was unfortunately brilliant. I thought was semi-brilliant. You know, it was
right.
the idea was brilliant. The execution was lacking. You know, and
Okay.
this is me from a criminal perspective because you won't think this is brilliant at all. You'll be like despicable. But you know, we're coming at it from different directions. So
Right. Right.
these two women rented an Airbnb. And this
Mm-hmm.
came out later. Like the first two articles, it wasn't clear. I thought I knew. And I actually did a video with my buddy Zach, and I was like, this is what I think they did. And then it came out later, this is what they did. They rented an Airbnb for like a week. They put it on Craigslist and a couple different, like, now one of the women, by the way, has some kind of a real estate background, not a real estate
Okay.
agent, but she has some real estate background. So they put it on Craigslist. They put it on kind of like a buy here, or sorry, not buy here, pay here, but for sale by owner. They didn't list it on the MLS or anything, but they literally before they even are arrive at the place, they've already got it listed. People show up, and it's a little bit under market value. And
Mm-hmm.
this was I might have probably I feel like it was a year ago, maybe 6 months to a year ago, whatever. Might have been longer than that. My time, I'm not very good with time, but point is let's say a year ago. So people show up and they're like, this is when, you know, the market was really big. Like in Florida, it's gone down now. Things are on the market much longer now. It's taking longer and
Of
longer.
course.
But a year ago it was booming. So people are showing up and going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And they would say, well, listen, we got, you know, they'd go, I want it. And they go, okay, well, let's write up a contract right now and you can give us a deposit. We're not taking less than whatever, 5,000, 3,000. And they would write them a check to the title company. Like, oh, you don't have to write it to me. You can write it to the title company. Well, they had somebody open up a bank account or a DBA as a title company.
Oh
And then,
my.
right, they give them the check and they deposit, and then they'd email them. It's funny because this is how ridiculous. Like the newspaper article said that they had created a fake title company, but really all they did, they had a DBA and
Mm-hmm.
they created an email address, which was like it was like a Gmail, you know, so it was like Palm Coast title at gmail.com. So they would
Right. Right.
send
Right.
them they'd send them something from them saying, we received your $3,500 or your $3,000, whatever it is. We received it. And, you know, and then they would send them obviously a copy of the signed contract and everything. We've deposited it and you're, you know, and basically they had 30 to 45 days to close. So
Right.
if you get 5 people a day at $3,000, that's $15,000 for a week. They then close that little operation down. And so that's, you know, that right there, that's a couple hundred, that's about 200,000. They close that down and go to the, um, how much is that? What am I saying? I don't think I did that math correctly, but whatever, 115 or 15,000 times 7. 105,000. So
Mm-hmm.
100, so anyway, they did it for like 400,000. They basically closed it down and went to another. Now they got some cash, so they do another Airbnb. They do the same thing again. So they got like
Mm.
400,000 in cash before anybody even starts to realize, hey, we need to get the appraiser in. Of course, they're not responding at this point. They've got their money
Of course.
and they're gone. And all of that was done. Now, of course, the problem is it caught up to them very quickly because whoever opened up the bank account with the DBA very quickly, you know, said, "Oh, that was and so did
Of
that," and then of course
course.
they
Of
track her
course. It's a
down.
trail, a paper trail.
Right, like it's a good scam if you were able to get fake IDs and the things that most people are incapable of doing. You know, they weren't able to cover their tracks or do it with anonymity. You know, it very quickly caught up to them, unfortunately. Well, not no, fortunately for them, it caught up with it. Or fortunately for the average
Right.
person that was thought they'd hit it big.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that was an Airbnb, and I was just like amazed. I was like, wow, like how easy that scam was. Of course, it broke down because they were idiots. You know, they couldn't put it together properly. But It was super interesting. And then the thing you were telling me about the Airbnb is also this. It reminded me of this. I'd met a guy who was in prison because, and I forget exactly why this was illegal. He was saying it's not illegal, but of course you took a plea and accepted like 3 years. So if it wasn't illegal, why didn't you go to trial?
I guess he took
It,
that plea fast,
you
didn't he?
know, but listen to what he did. And it doesn't say. It sounds kind of like where is it? What is it when you can rent your car out to people? What's that
Oh,
app?
you talking about that Toro?
Toro.
Yeah.
So this is what it sounded like. He had gone to car dealers and
Mm,
he'd gone to local car dealers and he said, look, if somebody comes in and they're upside down on their car, they can lease. I will lease the car from them. We'll keep it in their name and I'll lease it from them. And
mm-hmm,
then I'll rent out that. No, but it wasn't on Turo. So he's not buying your car, but he's leasing your car and then he would lease it to someone else. So some guy would give him $1,000 down and he'd lease out your car that was upside down. And then you were able to buy a new car. So the car dealers are like, look, okay, you're about 4,000 upside down in your car. You really can't get out of it. We can't roll it into the new car. You can get in the new car. The problem is you're still going to have this car on there. They're like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. I can't afford both cars. Well, listen, there's actually a guy who runs a company here and he'll lease your car from you. And they were like, really? Yeah, he leases it and then he rents them out or releases them. It's completely it's
mm-hmm,
his responsibility. Obviously, he'll make your payments. I think the problem was some of them, he got upside down himself and then couldn't make the payments. And then of course
mm,
he was also had basically said that he would be responsible for the payments. And obviously he's not responsible for the payments. The car's still in your name. The lien is in your name. I'm not making the payments. The 30-day late goes on your credit. But somehow or another, he'd done this to the tune of like 200 cars or something over the course of like 2 years. And eventually it caught up with them and the whole thing kind of fell apart. And there was an investigation and he got indicted and then went to prison for like 3 years.
You know
Interesting.
the weird thing about that, as I listen to all of that, how intricate that is, I always wonder why spend so much time putting together that plan when you could have just done it the right way. Like it's obvious that you can put together a plan that would work in whatever scenario, right? In a scenario that will benefit you. So why wouldn't you put all of that effort? All of the effort. It seems like you making this whole blueprint to defraud someone, to scam someone.
I
Just
don't
put
think I
it
feel like
towards good.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't feel like I talked to the guy, he still was struggling with how it was illegal, Like I don't think he entered into it thinking it was illegal. What I think
Mm,
he genuinely thought, and let's face it, you've talked to people before, right? You
yeah,
you you
of
know
course.
how naive people are.
I
They're
do
like
know. I
they're
do.
like, "Oh, I got divorced and my wife kept the car." And so let's say you pull someone's credit. I can't tell you how many times this has happened. Pull somebody's credit and they're like, it's like you've had 30 days lates on your Ford motor car vehicle, on your Ford motor car
Right.
loan. Oh no, that's not mine. That's my wife's. No, bro, it's on your credit. Are you both on the account? It says it's in your name only. Like it's not a joint account. It's yours. It's no. But we got divorced 3 years ago, and the judge awarded her the car, so that's her responsibility. Yeah, but it's on your credit. Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's not mine. Nah, bro, the judge doesn't work for Ford Motor Credit. So the judge can say that, but guess what? If she doesn't pay, it's going to go on your credit. Oh, no, but the court said, stop it, man. It's like everybody thinks, oh, no, they're all working together.
Mm-mm.
No, you now have
No.
30-day lates on your credit. Well, this
Right.
is bullshit. Yeah, it is. But it's also keeping you from getting a loan.
No.
My point is, that's why I think this guy was saying, I told them I would be responsible for the payments. I would. They have a lease with me. I'm responsible now. But you don't get to take the responsibility away from them. They borrowed from Bank of America. Bank of America wants them, and they don't get to say, "Oh, wait, Bank of America, I signed a lease. It's now John's responsibility." That's not how it works.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't work
he, in
that way.
his mind, thought like the husband, "Oh no, I signed a lease, so it wasn't their responsibility." No, No. So he still was struggling. Like, I don't understand. I don't think I did anything wrong. I don't this, I had a lease with them. I was responsible. And then I got over my head and that happens, and then I needed that money that was coming in to pay my bills. So I took that money to pay my bills. Like, listen, for the first year, it was doing great until I bought that $2 million house and I bought that Lamborghini. I got a little bit over my head. I thought it, because once people start doing well for 2 months, they think it's going to last forever.
Oh
Hit
man.
it big. I hit it big. It's going to last forever. Listen, if I have a good YouTube month, I got to tell myself every day, if I have a good month where it's like, wow, you're going to make a good, decent check this month.
Oh no.
I got to tell myself, bro, man, it's Christmas. Or, I'll look up like, why is this happening? Like, and then it's like, oh, it just happens to be this month is the best month of the year.
Me,
Next month, it's starvation.
me and JT talk about this all the time. Where you feel like, yeah, man, like YouTube will make you believe that you should quit your job,
I did
and
quit
you're
my
like, oh
job. This
man,
is my full-time job.
and for at least for us, like we have jobs, so it's like, oh man, look, you had a great month, and me personally, I'm very cautious, right? So when it comes to like money, and when it comes to, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, So for me, when I see like, oh wow, YouTube is doing great, I'm like, it's a cautious eye to me, because it's like, yeah, this is only gonna last for like 1 month, maybe 2 months, and then truly it does. How YouTube goes. It's like
Yeah.
it's a roller coaster, like So you may have a good month, and then the next month is down, or you may have good 2 months, and then it just goes, down for hill from there.
And,
So we
and
talk
you have
about
no
that all the
idea.
time, and how you can't get tricked by the system here.
Listen, and I've had months where I'm like, man, I got like these 4 videos and they're amazing. Every one of them gets like 12,000. You're like, what the hell? And then I'll talk to some crackhead who outran the police 4 times and can't speak a coherent sentence, and he gets 80,000 views. I'm like, that's
That's the way
ridiculous.
it works.
I could
That's the
barely
way
get
it
through the
works.
interview with this guy.
Listen,
You don't know.
man, and I mean, there's a joke with creators where it's like the video that you put so much effort into, that you did the everything, that video bombs, and then the video that you just like, oh man, I
Yeah.
just got to put something out because XYZ. That's the one that's gonna go explode, and you're just like scratching your head, like, what? Like, it doesn't make sense, and I mean, that's just the way the algorithm works.
Listen, I interviewed this one guy. His name was True Crime Kent. He's got a super successful Spotify podcast. No
Okay.
video. He was so over the top funny. I listen, my sides are like, I couldn't stop laughing. And he said, and listen, super dark, disturbing humor,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I would just, and he'd say stuff. We'd be talking, he'd say something, and I just suddenly you see my face, I like, and I'd have to like bend over and be like, it took me a second. It was so disturbing. I actually, for like 4 or 5 seconds, I thought, that's not what he said. I was like, no,
Mm,
no, that is what he said. And
mm,
I was laughing so hard. And I remember telling Colby, and usually anything that we do that has violence or death or,
mhm.
anything horrific like that, they don't do well.
Right.
Typical, I think it's like 70% of true crime viewers or consumers, let's say, are women. They like
Mm,
violent
they
crime. They
do.
like, you're right.
They do.
My guys, the people that watch my channel is 92% male.
Mm,
They watch my stuff for scams, for more. I had to say it like this: more sophisticated types of crime. Not no
right.
violence. They're
Right.
not anything I put up that has violence in it doesn't do well. But this guy was so funny. I was like, Colby, this is going to be great. This guy was hilarious. And we interviewed him and another guy at CrimeCon. So,
Oh,
and it
okay.
did great.
Yeah.
It got like, I don't know, 30, 40,000 views. For me, that's pretty
Hmm.
good. Man, I
Yeah.
interviewed this guy. I think it got 4,000 views.
What?
It was horrible. I was like, this is the worst thing ever. Like, this is and it was, I can't even watch. I laughed so hard. Nothing did well. The shorts didn't do well. his video didn't do well, and you just don't, like you said, you don't know. You
You
just
just
don't
don't
know
know, man. You just don't know. And you just like, and you'll see a video explode and you're just like,
why.
I guess.
Well, I
You
I
know, like, but it always works this way. In a video that I'm just like, I'm inspired to do, I really, really wanted to do it, and it just doesn't do well. It just doesn't, it just doesn't. Like, I don't know why that works that way and why and I've talked to tons of YouTubers, and all of them say the same thing. Say like, yeah, man, that video that blew up, I almost didn't upload it. Or it was a video that I really didn't even want to do. And I was in a rush and I did it. And like, it's not even what I normally do. It's all that, man. It's crazy.
was gonna say I had a video the other day. Oh, that Grant Cardone one, the guy that came from Grant Cardone,
Oh,
or that
yeah. Yeah.
he used to be with
I
Grant
saw that
Cardone.
video.
Came here, like he was like he flew in, or I think he drove in. I don't think he lives that far from me. So he drove in, said, "Hey, I'll
Mm-hmm.
drive in. I'll this." We talked on the phone for 30 minutes, and I thought that's probably pretty good. Like Grant Cardone is going to get me some views just because of the
He
name.
is. Right.
But then we did the interview, and I kind of like it's not crime related. It's not that it wasn't a bad interview. It was more like a Joe Rogan interview. It's like he's just kind of talking.
Exactly.
So it's not really true crime. So I thought, it's probably going to do okay. I think it got 30, 35. I think it got maybe 40,000 views in the first 24 hours. That's
Crazy.
insane. Insane for
Crazy.
my channel. But I was gonna say, but you're right. Like we had 2 or 3 good months, and I told Colby, my editor, I was like, listen, I'm doing this full time. He was like, and
He's
the
like,
look on his
I'm all
face,
in. I'm all in.
this guy's super conservative. Like he's got a daughter.
Yeah.
He's got another kid on the way. I don't know if it's a girl or a boy. He's married his high school sweetheart. Like my
Mm-hmm.
wife thinks he is the sweetest guy, you know. I'm almost positive he's super conservative. He grew up like in Lakeland. You know what I'm saying? Like he's
Right, right. I
really kind of
exactly know what you
small
mean.
town.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm definitely probably the worst influence of anyone he's ever met. And everybody that walks in the door, he's like, because look at his face when some of these guys start talking, it's just like, oh my God, what did that guy just say? So, but I told Colby, yeah, Colby, I said, like, I'm gonna do this full time. He was like, I see, he didn't say anything. But the look on his face was like, feel like you're jumping the gun, but okay, let's hear it. And I was like, look, here's what we're gonna do. We've been putting out, we've been taking one long video and splitting it, putting out 2-hour videos
I
a week.
see.
But people hate that. They hate, I get a lot of hate for breaking up the same interview and putting it out in parts.
Mm.
So I said, here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna do the one long video and just put out that video. He said, okay. I said, and I'm gonna start doing 3 StreamYards a week. So we'll be putting out 4 videos a week. That should be on average, that should be 8 videos or 8 hours a week. And that should bring our numbers straight up.
Right.
And I said, and then this is all I'm going to do. And I mean, he didn't give me the confidence that I felt he should have. I was so
I mean,
confident
you
I didn't
did say
need
he
his,
was conservative. You did say
I
he was
didn't need his
conservative. So,
confidence, but still it would have been nice, you
uh,
know? It's like when you get a
yeah,
good haircut and you're like, man, I got a good haircut. And your girl goes, I need you to say, I mean, I feel like it's good, but it'd be nice if your girl kind of jumped in there about like, you did get a great haircut. Like, get it, but I
yeah,
still want
but I also think as so me personally, JT the same way. He's an accountant or CPA, right? He's financial guy. I'm a financial guy, accountant, degree in accounting, and everything. Just numbers wise, like I'm just and based on my job, I'm just a conservative person. So I'm just I think I've never just jumped into something and was like, yep, I'm just gonna do it. I've just eased my way. So I could see he probably was just like, like, can we take this a little bit slower?
but listen, it did work out, but there have been
It
some months
did. It
when I'm
did.
like,
It did.
there have been
It
some
did.
months where I've been like, man, I hope a speaking gig comes along. I'm gonna have to pull out some money on my credit card or pull out some money out of my savings account, or, to pay. And I've done that a few times where you're pulling $1,000 out of your savings account to pay your
Yeah.
bills. And then this check hits and you pay it back. And there've been
Pay it
a few
back.
months where I didn't even pay it all back. It's like, oh,
Well, here's the thing, man. A lot of times people believe that. I mean, every kid nowadays wants to be a content creator or influencer. So everyone, based on if you go online, it's super easy, and once you get started and you give it, 3 months, then you're making millions.
mm,
That's really what you see on social media. So it's. I try to tell people like the content creation. I love it. I really do, because I'm personally doing something that I truly enjoy. Is real estate. It's either talk on camera or talk my friends' ears off to their bleed in real estate. So
right.
it's for me. It's great, right? But I can only imagine if you talked about something that you're not passionate about, or that you just jumped on a train, or you have to do hours and hours of research before you do a video. Like it would be draining, and
Yeah. CoffeeZilla
it's
style.
oh dude, no way. I
What's he
just I
going
just I couldn't, like the amount of depth that he goes into researches. I mean, so that's the reason why he has 1 million+ subs, and I get it. Great. I mean,
Yeah, but
he's do he's he
how many
go ahead.
CoffeeZillas have tried that formula and it didn't work?
Oh, tons,
You know,
tons,
I mean, he is great at it.
tons.
He's great at it, but I'll bet you there've been a bunch of guys that tried the same thing and it just
Of
didn't.
course, of course. So much of this content creation is trends, time, luck. Like there's just a lot of things that kind of just, and we just talked about it. Like you make a video and it doesn't perform, and then you make a video that you didn't think was going to do anything. Like you didn't even plan for that. That's not even something that you put out there to explode. It just happens. So a lot of this stuff is just like, consistency is really big, and I know it's like that's one of the big thing that a lot of the YouTube guru guys say is like consistency, and everybody rolls their eyes, but consistency is really a thing with
Yeah.
content creation. Like you
Yeah.
definitely have to be consistent.
I liken it to YouTube has figured out a way to get content creators to run networks for them for free,
Yes, for
you know,
free. You're
and
right.
and what they want, if you think about any network when you were growing up, that on Tuesdays they run, this is going to date me. Barney Miller comes on Tuesday. You don't even know what Barney Miller is.
Mm,
You're too young.
mm-mm.
So let's say what's on that right now? I don't know, whatever. What was on 20 years ago? The show 24. Like, so on Tuesdays that comes out on,
Right.
and then on Thursday they run, this other series that comes out, right? So it's every time the same series, the same rough length. Like obviously it doesn't have to be the exact same time, and it doesn't have to be the exact 42 minutes every time. It could be
Right.
roughly an hour, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. So, but that's what they want you to do consistently. If you're putting out 2 or 3 or 4 pieces of content a week, then you need to be doing it consistently. And after a year or so, they'll reward you once you're monetized. And everybody's like, oh, should I monetize? You want to monetize as quick as possible, in my opinion, because it gives YouTube an incentive to push your stuff. Pushing
Of
something that's
course.
demonetized that they can't run an ad on, that doesn't help them.
No, not at all.
What helps them is
Not at
that
all.
they can put commercials on your stuff and then they'll push it more. So there's all these little things that can help you, but in the end, you can follow all of those, and in 3 years, you have 1,000 subscribers, right? Or
You're,
maybe it's
you,
100,000, but it's
you,
true. Like you
it,
just
it's
don't.
true. You
But
just
if you
don't
don't
know.
try at all, you'll never get it. If you don't try at all,
That
you don't have a chance.
you have zero chance. That is 100% true. And so I try to tell people all the time, like, just start. Just start.
Yeah.
You know? But
Listen,
I get it. I
even if
mean, I'm
it's
pretty sure
shitty.
you've told tons of people to do that, and they just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I'm always like, look, even if it's shitty, listen, you know how bad when I talked to Danny on concrete and he gave me that advice, he gave me this advice, which we talked about before we were on air,
Yeah.
where he told me, I can't tell you for sure, but I feel like this is going to be a big video. You really need to start a YouTube channel and put some content out. And he even told me, and I was like, oh, I don't put it out. It'll be crappy. It'll be this. He's like, use your iPhone. And I was like, my iPhone? What are you talking? That's ridiculous. I don't want to do that. It's going to be horrible. And he even told me, even if you put it out and it's horrible, that can work for you. And I was like, why? He goes, because in a year from now, when you have the right equipment and you're putting out quality stuff, people will be able to look back and see your old stuff and say, wow, look how far this guy has come. Because people want to follow you on your journey and people are going to want to root for you. He was 110% correct.
He
And it
was.
was the best piece of advice that I completely ignored to my detriment. I mean, not that I'm doing bad now, but I mean, like I said, I could have had 500,000 or 1,000,000 subscribers right now if I'd started just 18 months earlier, a year earlier when he told me to
Yeah,
do it.
man. It's crazy how that works, and he would, like you said, he was 100% correct. If you would have had someone to some content out there for people to attach to after you did those interviews and stuff, man, you would have killed it, killed
Do
it.
you know who Jessica Kent is?
No, no.
So she's this chick that went to jail, right? Drug addict,
Hmm.
selling drugs, drug addict, drug dealer, was pregnant, went to prison, got sentenced, had a baby in prison. Baby goes to foster care. She gets out of prison. She gets the kid back. She starts a YouTube channel just about her journey, which sounds ridiculous, right? I always thought how
Yeah,
silly that sounds like my journey. My journey of being a drug addict. Yes, because there are drug addicts out there that
yeah.
that will connect with you. And when I
They
was growing
will.
up, nobody's connecting. There wasn't a market like this where you could connect. And now you can be any derelict out there will find a community. You
Let me
can
tell
say,
you.
hey, I collect little tiny Smurf dolls. And you could start a channel and probably make $100,000 because people collect those little Smurfs, or maybe they collect Beanie Babies, or maybe they collect something like as insane as that is. Maybe it's Star Wars figures. There's probably some guy who's got a million subscribers right now talking about Star Wars figures from 1980s. It's insane. So
I
anyway, what? Go ahead.
I have just to add on to that. When I first, even before I got into YouTube, I used to see all of these channels, and a lot more since I've been in YouTube. I've just seen tons of these. I just got out of jail.
Oh yeah.
This is what happens in prison. These are this is what we do in prison. This is the music. This is how we get cell phones into the prison. Like, I've seen so many of these videos pop, and then you go look at the person's subscribers and look at the channel, 1 million subs,
Yeah.
500,000, and you're just like, I'm scratching my head, like, and it's
Oh.
because of the connect. I don't connect it. I've never been to prison or jail, so it's
But
just like, what? Who would want
right.
to know that? Like, but I get it. It's the community.
Yeah. Well, especially for her because she's a girl,
Yes,
right? So that's an it's even
yes.
more of a niche. You had a
Mm-hmm.
baby, you're a mother, you got your kid back. That's even more of a niche. And she talks about the first time she did a video. She like thought about it for the longest time, finally sat down, sat in the corner of a room. She said it took her I think she said, I'm sure I'm wrong on this, like 3 hours to end up making a 10-minute video because
Mm.
she said I didn't like the way the angle was, like the way I looked, didn't like the way I sounded, didn't like the fact that I kept saying didn't like what I said. She's like, literally, finally, I got so frustrated, I just sat it down and just rambled out for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, whatever it was, and put the video up. And she said, immediately started getting people that were liking it and interested and watching it. And then I put out another one, and then I put out another one. She's like, and then it just blew up. And she's got like, I don't know what she's got, like 1 million subscribers now. She's
It's
got, I
insane.
forget how many on TikTok. And she's just massively huge, probably making $30,000, $40,000 a month. She's, and what's so funny is like, her life, I think about 6 months ago, kind of melted down. She kind of had like a meltdown
Mm.
with her fiance and put all that on it too. It's like, oh my God, like all the things that you hide in the 80s and 90s, now you just air out on YouTube for views.
For
And
views and get
right,
paid
I
for
would
it.
never have thought that growing up.
It's
So
insane, man.
it is insane. These guys with the prison channels talking about how they make a stinger and heat up their soup, with a stinger, and how do you charge your cell phone in prison without a charger, and how do you, God, that thing, how to make a knife, like,
I have to admit that is it. I mean, even and like those just as you were saying it, it does sound interesting because it's like for a person who's never been to jail or any of that, it's like, how do you do those things when you have no resources? Like, it is interesting. I mean, I do get that, see that point in it, but
I've been to prison. I'm not
yeah,
interested
man.
at
It so
all.
I can imagine if someone who's been in that in type of community, they're just like, they connect with that person and be like, yeah, this is what we used to do. It's kind of like going to being in high school. Like, you're just like, yeah, this is what we did in high school, and it brings back those memories. XYZ. I totally get it. So
I hear you, but I don't get it at all. Like I can't stand watching those videos.
I mean, I can't, me personally, I understand the intrigue, but me personally too, it's just not my thing. It's not like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not sitting here watching prison videos. Like,
right. But people do. They love them.
yeah,
Um. So let's that's what let's what about let's talk about we're so off kilter, off the subject.
yeah,
Um.
yeah, yeah. We
What about
are.
what do you think? How do you feel about the current economy, or I guess not the economy, but real estate? Uh, what's happening in real estate right now? You feel like
Well, I mean, you were
going
correct. The
great?
first, the economy is literally affecting the housing market, but in general, the housing market is in shambles right now. It's super unaffordable,
And where are you at?
and I'm in St. Louis.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So, it's just super expensive all nationwide. So you have inflation that's killing everything. Most people are going to the grocery store and they can't afford what they afforded 2, 3 years ago. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've seen meat, chicken, steak, all of that stuff is high, eggs, everything's high. Not to talk about gas, energy, everything is high. Everything is high because of inflation, and then the interest rates, which are already high now too. Individuals can't pay because Americans, we love monthly payments. We love monthly payments. So before, individuals were okay with paying a high price for a home, but they were getting it in a package of a 2 to 3%, 4% interest rate, and that made it palatable to them. They were like, I could do that. I could do that. So long my monthly payments are this. But now that the interest rates are at 7, 8%, now people are just like, I'm out of this. And so now you have low demand. You have low demand with the supply gaining traction here. And so you're having a lot of properties that sit on the market way longer than they were 2 years ago. I mean, if you go to the condo market in Florida, I mean, properties are staying on the market for 180 days without even with having 3 people look at them. Like, no one wants to touch this stuff, because not only do people is it too expensive, but everyone's afraid if they purchase, then the values will drop also. So you're
Right.
gonna buy a house at a high interest rate, and it's overpriced, but then in 2 years you may lose some money on that house too. It's just too risky.
Yeah, I was going to say, and a lot of people, one, they might want to move, but they're not going to move. Like it's funny. I actually did a video the other day where the guy was talking about moving to Miami. So
Hmm.
the guy came here. He has a YouTube channel. He's like, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Miami. He actually was basically saying I'm moving to Miami, and
Oh,
his
okay.
producer was here, and I was like, oh, are you going with him? He said, no, I can't move. And I was like, why? He's like, I got like a 2% interest rate on my house. He's like, I'm not going to say. He's like, I would go. I wouldn't mind going. He said, but I mean, I'm going to what? Get out of. I'm going to sell my house at 2%. He's like, he's like, no, he's like, there's no way. It's like, I'm not, he's like, to move across the country. He said, and I don't want to rent it out because I'm not going to be down the street. So, I can't rent it out because I want to be close to a rental if I have it because I don't have, what am I going to pay property management company? Like he was going back and forth, and he had all these reasons, and they were all valid reasons. So there's a whole slew of people that are just sitting tight on their 2% interest rates and they're not going to move. They're not
Of
going to,
course.
even if it's go up or down, they're just going to sit there like they're
Mm-hmm.
never going to be able to afford this house at this price again because they've
Mm-hmm.
got a 2% interest rate. And they know they'll
Right.
get a 6.5% now, and they don't want to do that.
No, no one, and not. It's not just the 6.5. It's 6.5 plus. If you bought your house, let's say you bought your house 10 years ago, and it was a $200,000 house, right? that house is at least a $400,000 house now,
Right.
$500,000 house. So you gonna not only get hit on the interest rate, but also get hit on the amount of money that you're gonna have to take out to loan. The purchase price is way higher, and a lot of people are in a situation where a lot of seniors fixed income. Where are they gonna go? You know.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just a very very tough market. And on my channel, I have been telling people, I don't know, 2 years ago, hey, look, this is what's gonna happen, and now we're here, and people are just all surprised. But it's to me, it was very easy to see, obviously because I'm in this is my job, that I'm in the industry, so I totally get it. But it was just it was obvious that when the government was pumping all of the money into the economy, like, it's gonna stop somewhere.
Right.
There's no way for people to continue to stuff their pockets with money, and the spending that was going. I mean, the ridiculous amount of spending. I mean, let's be honest. Walmart was running out of toilet tissue. Like,
Right.
I
Well,
mean, let's be real here. How far do you think? How much longer do you think we could do that, where everything is running out? That's not gonna. And for some odd reason, a lot of the pundits, a lot of these real estate agents, really thought this was gonna last for the next 10 years, 5 years. Oh, it's gonna run up, so you better buy now, because if you don't buy now, if you don't buy today, then you're gonna lose out on the greatest wealth generation.
yeah. I honestly, I'm shocked that it didn't crash a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Like a year, like 18 months ago, I was like, well, more like, let's see, about 3 years ago when I started interviewing people. That's right. I was like, you
Hmm.
got about a year to 18 months. Well, it's been 3 years. Like, it's just
Yeah.
now starting to, trickle down. And really, the prices haven't dropped too dramatically. It's just that the inventory, like, they've dropped a little bit,
Hmm.
but the inventory is what's staying. And that's just an indicator that, guess what? Now they're going to start, like, and they are
Right.
dropping, but not as significantly as I'm sure in a year, 6 months to a year from now, those people
Right.
that kind of have to sell, maybe now they are desperate to sell,
Yeah.
and so they really start making those cuts because things go wrong in people's lives. They get divorced, they retire. Let's say you're retiring and you don't have your house paid for. Well, you can't afford that house anymore. You just went from, now you're on
Right.
Social Security, you retired, and your $5,000 a month just got cut to 2,100. You've got to move. You don't have a choice, even if you have to take $100,000 hit on your house. On your
Yeah.
house, well, that's what you got to do, because otherwise the bank will take your house.
Yeah, right now the commercial side is seeing that huge drop, where you're seeing 50, 60, 70% price decreases. So that's where the huge drop is happening right now. And I'm trying to inform everybody, to let people know that you have to really look at this and understand that it's going to affect the residential, because what a lot of people don't really understand is that a lot of those business districts, they all eat off of each other. So if you have an office building that's there, when people go to lunch, where do they go? They go to the Starbucks that's right there. They go to the restaurant that's in that business district. Well, now that those office buildings are vacant, now no one's going to go to that restaurant anymore. So that restaurant closes down. And then now that business owner doesn't have any money coming in, how is he going to afford the house? So then he loses his house. It's a domino effect. And I'm trying to inform my viewers and anyone who will listen that you just have to read between the lines, and all of this stuff is interconnected. It's just not a stay in your own lane scenario.
I was going to say, aren't I looked it up, honestly, maybe a month ago, where like the top 10 cities that had like 20, 30, 40% vacancies in the cities themselves, um,
Hmm.
commercial vacancies. So like half the buildings are 30% empty, 40% empty.
Yeah, San Francisco.
It was outrageous.
Right.
And I just, yeah, I can't imagine that like half the buildings are just vacant, and that they wouldn't be dropping their prices dramatically to try and get people in those buildings. Like, you're just going to leave them, you're just going to leave them empty.
Well, the problem is that if you bought a building for $500,000, or no, if you bought a building for, I'm sorry, for $500 million, for 500 million, and it's a big skyscraper, right?
Yeah.
And it's in the middle of San Francisco. Well, there's a certain number that you have to make those mortgage payments. Now, if you realize that with you have a 60% vacancy, even if you cut that number in half, or what you used to rent. Let's say you was renting for $10,000 a month, and now you're gonna say, I'm gonna give people a deal at $5,000 a month. Even if you got to 100%, you still couldn't make the mortgage payments at 5,000. That's the problem. People bought the properties at an overvalued price, and
Right.
they, no matter what they do, if they don't charge their tenants this number, which is probably market rate or more, they can't make the payments anyway. So the only thing they can do is hand the keys back to the bank. That's it. They can't do anything else.
Well, I think I'd go
How
into the
many
bank
how
and
many
try
buyers of $500 million real estate are there? Not
a
many.
lot.
Right.
Yeah.
You got what maybe in the United States, maybe 40, 50 outlets, and all of them are super smart, and all of them have the same data and understand, oh, you're in a predicament. How about we just wait until you give it back to the bank, and then we buy it cheaply from them?
Or I was going to say, why not, I would go to the bank and try and renegotiate. Like
Exactly.
you're either getting this place back now, or we're going to renegotiate. Um, I was going to say, what do you think now that we're talking about commercial real estate? What do you think about Trump's being charged? Trump's charge of the fraud charge, where they,
You talking about
you know,
go ahead.
yeah, where he's been, I forget what the actual number, where he said, hey, the hotel's worth 800 million. They came back and said, we think it's worth 700 million. They lend him the money. He makes the payments. He pays them back. And now he was, obviously he lost the case where they came in and they said, oh, you tried to defraud him out of $100 million because I said I thought it was worth 800,000. And they said, yeah, that's fraud. That's not fraud. That's every single person out here in the real estate. I think it's worth 800.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, is it fraud? I would have to look more deeply into it, but I can tell you this. Every borrower thinks that their property is valued more than what it is.
Right.
How much do you think your property is worth, sir? Oh, my property is definitely worth 5 million. But you bought it for $500,000 last year. What did you do? Nothing. I didn't do anything to it. But you have to understand that this happened and this happened and this happened around the area, and it's worth this much.
Right.
Well, I don't think it's worth that much.
No.
Well, I do.
Well,
I get that
that's
all
why
the time.
that's why you send out an appraiser.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
But that's just the rule of thumb. You come in and say, this is what I think it's worth. Why? Because this hotel sold for this and we have 100 more rooms. This one sold for this, but we're on the beach. We're, all these things that you are kind of like, I think it's worth 800,000. And the truth is they're like, yeah, those are great, but they're not worth, it would be worth 600,000. That brings it up to about 7, but not 8. And, that's what the appraiser determines. But yeah, just like you said, listen, I sold cars one time for 6 months. It's horrible. Every person that came in, I'd say, oh, how's your trade? And they go, oh, it's great. I go, any damage? No damage. It's a perfect condition. And you would walk out there. And as you're walking around, it's like, what about this ding? What about this? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. What about this? This dent here. Oh God, that was my daughter drove it. That happened. That was like a year ago. I never even noticed that. You're right. I don't think they're committing fraud. I just think they kind of forgot about it. And,
Right.
but that bothers me that every real estate agent out there does the same exact thing. Every homeowner does the same thing. They put your house on the market for 300,000. You ended up taking 250,000 because that's what the bank said it was worth.
Right.
Were you trying to defraud them out of $50,000?
No, you're
No.
just trying to get the most.
Right.
You're just trying to get the most.
Right.
So yeah, I see that all the time. And it's my job. It's my job to figure out what the value is, and we do our reports and everything like that to figure out what the price is for the value of it. And so that's just kind of the underwriting way. So as far as, was he defrauding or not? I mean, probably not. He's probably doing what everybody else does. I don't know the extreme details of it, but based off of what you just told me, like, yeah, I see that all the time.
Look,
I probably see it 2 times today.
listen, it would be different if he provided fraudulent documentation. Like now there's something different. You went out and you created fraudulent documentation, or now now there's a problem. You see what I'm
Mm,
saying? Then I'd be like,
mm-hmm.
hey, yeah, that's no, you can't do that. Like you can't
Yeah,
start
yeah, I
providing
totally
fraudulent documents
understand that.
to boost your value, or what if he provided, fake leases for properties that
Ooh,
weren't,
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? I bet
yeah.
you've
I,
seen
I've
that.
seen I've seen that happen before too, where individuals will provide me a lease. I just had a deal recently where you know the landlord told me, or the owner told me, that this property is leased up or whatnot, and we sent someone out there to do inspections. And when we went inside the building, I mean, it was like the building was down to studs, like a couple of the units down to studs, and I'm like, what's going on here? He's like, oh, we have it leased, but we haven't fixed it up yet. And I'll be like, well, that'd been nice for you to let us know that. So those units aren't leased. No, they are leased. No, no one can live in it. It's not
Right.
livable.
Yeah.
So I see stuff like that all the time, and it's a definitely trust and verify scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, they're trying to offset their the debt to income ratio, or what the value of the property is, by providing false leases or backdating
Exactly,
leases. You know,
exactly,
like that's
exactly. And the thing is, a lot of these guys think that they can get away with it because, I don't know, they just think a lot of, and I say this all the time, and there's, how you said that sometimes people are naive. I mean, we have attorneys, dentists, doctors, and they're horrible. When I say they're horrible with their finances. They don't know. You ask them what their credit score is, and they'll be like, "What? I haven't ran that thing in 10 years." Like they have no idea when it comes to their finances. Hey, what's this? What's that? I don't know. What is that? Well, it's your finances. That's what I'm asking you. What happened here? I don't even remember that happening. Like, I
I,
see it so many times where you have these individuals who you believe would be, they have in these great professions, right? And you would think that they'd be up and up on their finances. But out of all the clients I deal with, professionals, accountants probably are the worst because you expect more from them because they deal with numbers, but they're really bad. You doctors, attorneys, it just goes on and on where you just like, what? You don't keep up on this stuff? And they're like, no.
the
Can
worst
you give me your tax returns? Hmm. I don't know. I have to find those. And you're like, what?
the worst listen, the worst credit I ever saw, ever, which was still maintained, other than somebody who let everything go. But this is a guy who's
Right.
maintaining his credit, was a doctor. And I mean,
Ugh.
he had, like, you've got credit cards for 40,000, 50,000, and you've got late payments for $19, for $30. And I'm like, you've got a
Yep.
60-day late for 19, then 32, then, like, you literally went, then $42, and then you made a payment for $110. He's like, well, I mean, I just wait, I don't use that credit card, so I just wait till it adds up to something. Like, it's only $19. It's a 30-day late. It's $19. It's a 30-day late for $19. You make 200,000 plus a year. What are you doing? Like, you would have to work. You'd have to. This is so bad. You'd have to actually work to make it this bad without getting your credit card shut off.
Yep.
But he was a
Yep.
doctor. He got a lot of leeway from, like, the credit union and stuff, but they did keep dinging him 30 days, 60, 90. And this went on for like he had like 5 years worth of it. That was just
Mm, mm,
horrific.
mm.
And I was just like, this is, I mean, you have like a 505 credit, or like a 480 credit score. Like, you're a fucking doctor, bro. Like, you've got $100,000 Mercedes that, it doesn't even make sense. Like, how
They
it's
all
this.
have nice
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah. Like,
That's the one thing that I see. You
there's
look
no
at
way
that. I
he
look at
didn't.
that.
It's not like he couldn't pay the $19.
Right.
You're just like, are you serious?
Yeah.
It
I've
doesn't matter if
seen
it's
a
Florida.
dollar late. I've seen $10 late payments. I saw just recently someone came and they had 25 lates on one credit card. I just think to myself, like, but then when I look at their personal financial statement, it shows that they have $60,000 in cash in their account, and you're just like, what?
What are you thinking?
Like, make this make sense, and it just doesn't. And that's just the industry I see. I just see so much bad financial choices. And so for me, when I see a lot of the stuff online, and I just deal with it every day, it's super easy for me to be like, look, what are you guys doing? Just do this, do that, and stay on track. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, what I love is that they do that and then they go, it's like you realize that it's only $19. It wasn't worth making the payment. Like, I'll just wait.
Right.
It adds up to something. That just was the difference between, and this was back 20 years ago. That's like the difference between you getting a 6.5 interest rate. And if I can get you a loan at all now, you're at like 11%. And 20,
Right.
as opposed to putting down 5% on your house, and now you're putting down 20%. Like,
But
the amount
the
of
funny
money
thing.
that costs you
Mm.
was outrageous. That stupid
And the
decision.
funny and the funny
Right.
thing about it is, those are the guys who are going to fight me tooth and nail on interest rate.
Yeah.
Those are the guys who are going to fight me and say, what are you doing? Did you know I could go? And I'm like, you can't go anywhere, man. What are
No.
you talking about?
My buddy Jimmy got a 6.2, and you're telling me it's 7.5. Like, did your buddy Jimmy pay his car payment late 3 months in a row? Did your buddy Jimmy? You start to. I would hammer him. I'd be like, "Hey, you need to go talk to Jimmy, see where he went.
Yeah, that's
Probably
what I
go."
say all the time. Please ask your buddy, your next door neighbor. Their cousin, their next door neighbor, they all have better rates, and they told me that what to expect, and I'm not getting it. And it's like, well, just go show your neighbor your credit report, see what he says.
Right. I don't want to do that.
Of course not.
Um, I used to always. This is funny too, because I'm sure it wasn't just my experience with my brokers. I used to tell them, like, if the guy comes in the door and he's a problem, he's talking about the interest rate, talking about the
Hmm.
application fee, talking about he's complaining about this, complaining about, if he's complaining from the very beginning, to do yourself a favor, draw a hard line in the sand and don't cross it. Tell him right then, this is what the rate is. Well, I'm not paying that. I understand. I'm sorry, I can't lower it. Well, can you work on it a little bit? No.
Yeah.
Can you work on your interest rate, or can you work on the what about the application fee? That's just a made up fee. I understand, but that's what the guy that owns this place charges. I've never seen him drop it. I mean, I can ask, but I tell you right now, I'll walk in the other room. He's going to say no. Well, what's up with your broker fee? That's my broker fee. I don't lower that. It's set. It's scheduled. That's what the set fee is. I do not. Well, you can work on it a little bit. No, I can't. And they were like, well, why not work on it a little bit? I said, if the guy sits down when he's begging for the money and he's a pain in the ass, he will be a nightmare by the time you get to closing. You're better off
Oof.
not dealing with him.
Hmm.
It's the guy that walks in and is like, yeah, that's cool. Okay, that's it. Okay, no, I get it. I understand. That guy's a joy to work with. I'll wait for that guy to come in, as opposed to the guy that's bitching and moaning, because by
I,
the time you get to closing, he's been a nightmare. And trust me, you cut your fee, you waive the application fee, you cut this, you did this, you bent over backwards. You're the one collecting the documents he's supposed to be getting. And by the end, I promise you, that fee isn't worth it.
I always say, my saying is that you make your money on the deals you don't do. That's
Yeah.
that's what I say.
Okay.
And
That's
and what I mean by that is exactly what you said. All the problem people, and there's tons. And how many deals you say no to how many deals you say yes to. It's the number, the percentage is high, right? So it's a high percentage, right? So for me, I see tons and tons and tons and tons of deals, and I say no, 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 no to majority of them, right? And the ones that I say yes to, you know, if I say yes to you and then I'm talking to you and then you're gonna make it hard for me, and that I just move on. I
yeah.
just move on. Listen,
What's
go speak to someone else. Like, because obviously you don't want the money, and especially if they're a problem trying, they got hair all on the deal and stuff like that, and you're trying to work with them and they don't want to work with you, then go work with someone else.
what's funny about that is that, um, if you do that, from the very beginning, you draw that hard line. No,
Mm-hmm.
this is what it is. I understand. I'm not trying to be difficult. This is just the way it is. I understand. Well, I mean, maybe you should go to Bank of America. I get that. Like, I understand. I mean, this is what we specialize in. I don't think you're going to do very well, but this is it. None of that is changing. If you draw that hard line, it's almost like a bully. If you stand up to him and kind of punch him in the face, he typically is like, okay, bro. Well, yeah, I just thought that's cool. And then sometimes they walk, but sometimes they step in line. And they're not a problem anymore, especially if it's like they call you up, hey, bro, this and this and this. Can we this? Can that? No. That's so much easier than, well, man, I don't think I can make the deal. Then you can't make the deal work. I totally get it. I understand. I have other clients that aren't going to be a problem. Nah, bro, I'm good. I'll meet the guy. It's fine. Yeah, that's okay. Click. They pretty quick. You don't have to do it much for them to start realizing, okay, I can't bully this guy. I can't. Yeah, I'm not going to get my way.
Super important, man.
Yeah.
Super important. And so I really push that. I just don't really play. I'm too busy to be sitting here dealing with, oh, you don't want to do this. You don't want to. Okay, man, just go to Wells Fargo.
Right.
Just go to Wells Fargo.
I can't. Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo kicked me out 2 months ago. My credit union said no. I do know. I saw the inquiries. You've been to 4 places. You already know you got nowhere to go.
Right. Ain't that the truth?
So I'm actually going to do a real estate course where so this is, try not to laugh. It's okay. You can laugh. Okay. Just try not. I saw it in your face. There was a split second where you wanted to grin, but you were like, no, don't do it. Don't do it.
So it was a slight second. I was like, oh, okay.
But I, when I was in prison, I taught what they call the residential real estate class. I taught it for 10 years. It's funny. It's fine. I know it's funny. And I was there for bank, of course.
I'm listening.
But it was so, it's like I have it down. The only thing I need to probably, kind of look back into was, new construction. Some of the new construction things that honestly, I don't really zoning and stuff, but I don't think zoning is really changed. But then zoning is a little different, slightly different any county you go to. So other than the new construction and permitting and that sort of thing, I kind of probably need to look over that again because I haven't done it in like 20 years. But yeah, I'm actually going to do a real estate course where people can buy the course. And I mentioned that because I did a video, I think the Grant Cardone video that I did that you talked about. In the middle of it, we were talking about, the guy says, what did he say? It was so funny. He's like, yeah, I mean, like if you were any good at this and you were making money at it, he's like, you wouldn't be selling courses. And I was like, I'm actually going to do a course.
I have a course too. I have a real estate course too. So.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, okay, well, I'm not Grant Cardone and I'm not making tons of money and it's an easy course and it's inexpensive. But yeah, it's funny. So I used to teach it in prison. Like I would go and there would be 40 guys. Like, so in prisons, they have something called a ACE courses, adult continuing education courses. And I think they're supposed to be taught by the staff, but they don't pay the staff extra to teach the courses. So they let the inmates teach them. And you have a staff member that's over the courses, which never comes into the play, doesn't know what I'm teaching. So I used to have these guys go in and it'd be 40 of these guys in there. And it was the first couple courses, the entire thing, whatever, it was like an 8 or 12 weeks, let's say 8 weeks. So the first 8 weeks, or I don't know which one, semesters, quarters. So the first few quarters that I did, listen, after like the third quarter, that class was packed. I mean, really? Packed. Oh, these guys were walking up to me after class and shaking my hand, bro. Like, Cox, that was a good course. That was a good course. I was like, it was a good class, bro. It's a good class. And then guys start coming to me saying, what are you teaching in that class? And I'm like, what do you mean? They go, my celly's taking your class right now. He walked in the other day, Wednesday night. He came, walked in, put his book down and said, bro, I'm going to be a millionaire when I get out. This guy, I've been taking Cox's course. I was like, what? He said, what? And he's like, yeah, this guy thinks that you are a guru, bro. And I was just being like I said, super honest. Like, look, you're going to need
Right.
money. You're going to need this. This is how this
Right.
works. Like, this is not hard to do, but it takes time. You have to be able to realize that I'm doing this now because in 2 years, I'm going to walk into a bank and I have to provide these documents. So for instance, one of the things I would tell them was, this is funny. And this is residential, not commercial,
Not
obviously.
commercial. Right.
But one of the things was I was like, who's getting out of here? And they're going to move in with their mom or a family member, and they'd all raise their
Right.
hand. I say, okay, I get it. I say, so in 2 years from now, you want to buy a house, right? You want to be able to borrow money from the bank, right? Right. I said, so is your mom going to make you pay rent? And they'd be like, no, she won't make you pay rent. I go, right. So in 2 years, when you walk in and you apply for the loan, and they say, okay, we need 2 years worth of residential, history, where you've lived
Right.
and how much you paid. And you're going to say, oh, I live with my mom. I said, guess what? You don't get the loan. You don't get the
Yep.
loan.
You don't get it.
And they're like, and they're like, what? Well, what if so you're saying tell them that I pay my mom whatever $500 a month? I'm like, right. Is your mom a management company? No. So they're not going to accept a letter from your mom
No.
saying, first of all, they're not going to accept a letter from your mom. Second, two, even if it was a management company, she's not the management company. Like, you have to have a management company to verify that you rent this place and you're paying it every month. And then you don't have to provide the checks, but it's got to be a licensed management company. And I'm like, and you don't have that. They're like, right. They're like, dang, bro. So what are you saying? I got to go rent a place, right? Well, we don't have any money. I was like, no, you can pay your mother $500. So on the first of every month, you write a check for $500. You give it to your mom. You let her cash a check. And I said, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking she's gonna be like, "Oh, sweetie, that's so nice." No, no, mom, cash a check. Give me my $500 back. But you've got your canceled check for $500 saying January rent.
Right.
Then you collect them every month, and that way, and then they don't care if it's your mother. So no.
Right.
I rent a room from my mother. I pay her. Well, the loan officer is going to say, "Come on, man, you got canceled checks?" You're going to go, "I actually do." Here's
They'd be
24
like,
months.
oh,
They're
okay.
going to be like, "Damn." Trust me.
Okay.
I said, "There's no better verification than canceled checks."
Man,
So
you're right
don't
about
get.
that.
I said, don't think, oh, I can get a receipt. A receipt doesn't mean anything. You can go buy a receipt from the Dollar General store and write them up. Don't. So, there were all these little things that I told them, and you should see them. They were just, oh, this is gold, and it was gold.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, look, but that takes discipline, and I explained the whole reason why the bank wants to know that you're paying this because, that you've been preparing the whole time. So they don't care that you got out of jail 2 years ago. You've been paying your rent on time. You've got your W-2s. You've got your pay stubs. You've been putting money in the bank. I did the whole thing. If you put $20 a day in the bank, and I did the whole calculations. Like, don't be an idiot. Like, be smart about it. That's what separates, winners and losers. They say, hey, where do I want to be in 2 years? And I have to do something every single day toward that. It doesn't have to be huge, but it has to be something.
Yeah, but most people think that's too much work. That's
Yeah, but those people
of
end up
course.
in. Yeah, I was going to say, but that's the thing. That's what separates those people from successful people, and
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
fine.
you're
Listen,
right.
somebody has to live in the projects. I get it. Somebody has to dig ditches. It's just not going to be me. It's not going to be the guy that says, you know what, Mom, it's the first time I'm going to write you a check for $500. Can you deposit it?
Mm,
Sure. Well, yeah, of course. Do that. So I kind of would go through the whole thing, and of course, listen, these guys would get out. What was the funniest thing about that course, by the way, was after like a year, some of these guys would sit through the course. They'd stand up in the corner. There was no chairs for them. They just stand there.
and just
Some of
listen.
these guys, I'm sorry,
And just listen.
and just listen. Look, because they've been through it. Like, they'd already taken the course once, and now they're just standing through it. So I would
Mm,
get to a point where I did a class on alternative financing, right? Owner
right.
financing, hard money lending, owner financing, things of that nature. And I would talk about, I'd say, you can do this, owner financing. You can also do, where I'd give them scenarios and they'd say, well, what if the person already has a mortgage on the property? I'd say, well, you can do what's called and I go, shoot. And there'd be some guy in the back, you go, wraparound mortgage. And I go, right, a wraparound mortgage, exactly. And you can, and then I did this and this, and if you, what if you don't have the down payment, this and this? I'm like, well, if the lender's okay with it, and not all of them are, but subprime lenders used to be okay with this. You can do what's
Yes.
called a CLTV loan, where you put down 5%, the bank lends you 80, and you hold. I said, and the owner can hold a 15%. And I'd look over at somebody and go like that, and they'd go, second mortgage. And you should see these guys would look over and be like, oh my God. It was hilarious. Like some of these
Now,
guys could teach the course.
yeah, and the thing is that those things are somewhat true now, but it's just the percentage is a lot lower now. Before it used to be like the 15%. Now it's like you can get 10,
Right,
and you
right.
still have to come up with that other 15% or 10%, depending on the property type that you're purchasing.
Right, with
So,
depending on the lender too, right? Like every lender is
also,
different.
oh yeah, because some lenders don't allow that at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
it's you have to bring in all cash for the down payment. There's no second mortgages, and second mortgages aren't allowed. It's just not. And
You're
then
thinking commercial,
some
right? Or are
allow
you
you to do
thinking
it.
residential?
Say it again.
Are you thinking more commercial or residential?
Oh, well, that's definitely more commercial.
Okay.
Residential, it's hard to do that because I mean, you can get an FHA loan for 3.5%. So there really is
There's no reason to do it.
there any reason for a secondary mortgage or
Yeah, I
anything like
wasn't,
that.
and I wasn't thinking like conventional, VA conventional or FHA. I was thinking
Right.
subprime because there are they don't call them subprimes anymore. They've got another name for them.
Right.
I forget what they call them, but like they're actually kind of making a comeback where they're letting you do second. It's subprime. It's the same.
Oh, it definitely is subprime. I mean, and you're right. They are making a small comeback, but I tell people all the time, those type of loans, they are risky. And I understand most of the people, and this is the truth, most of the people who are getting those type of loans, they they don't really have the experience to understand that high leverage stuff. It could set you up for disaster if you don't know what you're doing. And a lot of these guys don't know what they're doing, and they're just, especially in this flipping market, they're doing things like that where they're doing that high leverage, and they don't really put into effect that the holding cost is going to come along with that.
Right.
They thought that they watched an HGTV special, and the guy said he sold it in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
or 1 week.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
and,
and
and they don't get it.
a lot of these I was thinking about, like when I'm explaining it, like alternative financing. I'm talking
Right.
about like, I'm going to take over your first mortgage, put 10% down or 5% down, and then the owner can hold a 10% or a 15% second.
Right. Right.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm just giving them extra tools that may, and I
Right.
explained to them too, like, listen, bro, like I tell you right now, I'm like, like in a deal like this, you have almost no negotiation power. You have virtually none.
Oh,
Like they're
yeah.
not. You got
Right.
to go in and say, you want 200,000 for your house? Here's how I can do it. Don't say, well, I can give you 190. They're not going 190.
Mm-mm.
Your negotiation power is in the financing.
It
Like
is.
I need you to be able to, I can pay you, you can pay your first mortgage. I need you to hold a second mortgage. I can't, what I'm saying? Or a wraparound mortgage with a balloon payment, or you can negotiate like that. And I said, I think that a lot of times being willing to negotiate makes those, makes the seller more amicable because you have this interaction where you're trying to make the deal work. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. But you can't do that and say, oh, and I need you to replace the carpet. Oh, and I need you to, they're gonna be like,
They're
I'll take
like,
it the way it is.
nah,
Right.
we're not doing that.
And then you need to have an exit plan. You need to say, look, we can do an 18-month balloon payment where I promise, well, I'll have the payment paid off in 18 months. And you need a reason why you're doing this. Why am I doing this? Because, I claimed this much I started my business 2 years ago, but I've only filed one set of taxes. The next set of taxes isn't due yet. And I'll be honest with you, I've written off a ton of stuff, and I'm not going to be able to get a loan from the bank, but I have perfect credit. I have the down payment. Like, you need to be able to
Mm-hmm.
answer those questions reasonably. So, I went through that whole thing, but it was just amazing doing that class because I'm basically going to do the same class, but I do need to look into some of it.
Mm-hmm.
I only mention that
To
because
make sure it's updated.
right while we've been talking, my calendar thing came across and it said credit course outline. So I
Ah,
know, so when we were talking, it was like bing, and I thought I need to do my credit cards. But yeah, I do need to, and it's all residential. Like I don't even try and do commercial because I've never done a commercial loan.
yeah,
When I owned the
yeah.
mortgage company, it was all we were
All
FHA approved.
residential.
Yeah, it was all residential.
Yeah,
We
I'm
did
a commercial
FHA.
guy, so a lot of my stuff is all it's all commercial. I don't do resident unless I do residential only if it's an investment, which is still commercial. Uh, so it's still, I don't do primary residence or anything like that. So I stay away from that stuff.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the people we would do would be like four plus, but if it's 4 units or under, then it's still residential. So
Yeah, it is. Well, it depends. It depends. It is for, I mean, property type wise, it is, right? But if you're going to use it for an investment and not live there, then it's automatically in the commercial zone.
right. Well, I meant like you're still getting a residential loan. You can get
Mm,
you can get a conventional loan on a 4 unit on a quadplex. You
you
can get a
can, you
FHA
can.
loan on a quadplex, but you can't get one on a
Yes.
5 unit.
Okay, but the reason why you're able to do that is because you're telling the bank that you're going to live in one of those units.
No, there's
If
still
you
investment. It's still an investment.
No, no,
It
no,
can still
no.
be an investment property. You don't have to live there. You got to put down 20% or 25 as an investment property.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
The
okay.
the FHA portion of it, the FHA or VA portion of that 3.5%, that doesn't apply to someone who is not going to live there and is just only using it for an investment. That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Like I was gonna say, like I bought a 10 unit one time, but it was owner financing.
Ah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
But
So
those are
there was
good though. I mean, especially if you get a good deal on it, like
yeah,
it can work out.
it was a great deal. It was in the middle of hell. It was horrific. It was horrific. But yeah, it made a ton of money.
See, that's
Um,
what it's about, man. I
yeah.
love I love me some commercial multifamily, man. That's my thing.
You know what else I did was one time we bought a property on 2 lots. And we only bought it, like I bought it for 60 or 80,000, I forget, because I remember my payment was like $600 a month. But
Oh
it was a
man.
property on 2 properties, and we were going to bulldoze it and build 2 buildings or
Mm,
two duplexes. So okay, for that's worth it. It's going to cost $3,500 to scrape these things off the lot. So we roughly paid 20 or 40,000 or 30,000 per lot. We're gonna build like 2 duplexes or triplexes, like whatever the numbers worked, right?
right.
Was we bought it, and this an old Cuban guy shows up, and he shows up, and he to the closing, and we sign, and he goes, oh, and I mean barely, like I don't know how this guy's lived in this country this whole time, barely speaks English, but he's like, oh, you follow me, we go to the place, and I was like, okay, for no, I said I've seen it, and I only walked around the building, I've never been inside because I'm
Mm,
bulldozing it, I don't care what it looks
right,
like.
right.
He said, no, you collect the rents due. I was like, oh, he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's right. It's a rooming house. Listen,
Ah,
went and knocked on the first door. The person handed me, and keep in mind, this 20 something years ago,
yeah.
handed us a check for like $350. It was his social security check,
Mm-hmm.
covered the whole month's rent. So, okay, took that. Um, Went to the next door. The guy gave me $85. Went to the next door. Guy gave like, it was like $75 or something.
Right.
Next door, $80. Next door, 65. Next door, 75. Next door, 85. Next door, we're going through. One place gave me, he paid 115 because he
Mm,
had a kitchen and a bathroom
right.
in his room. Still not a big, like these are not, these are basically bedrooms, regular bedrooms. Some of
Right.
them are very small, like half the size of a normal kid's bedroom where you barely fit a bed and a dresser in there, and they're paying $75.
That's
As we're
crazy.
going through 14 rooms, 14 rooms. And when I was done, I had collected like 1,400 because of the one check that was 350. And, so it was like
Mm,
1,400 something in cash, except for one check. And I said, how often do you collect this? And he said, well, I'd only collected 350 once. And it was like 357 or 342,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was. It wasn't even. And he's like, I only collect that once, but normally, yeah, he said I collect about like 13 or 1100 dollars or something like that every week.
What?
Every week. And my listen, my mortgage payment was like 650 including the insurance.
Right.
I remember I turned around. So suddenly now I'm serious. Now
Yeah.
I'm like, now I'm grabbing a paper going, okay, room number one was how much? Now I actually started writing it because I thought I'm evicting all
Right.
these people. Like
Right.
we're going to come in
Right.
here and just evict everybody.
You
Listen,
was about to tear down the whole place.
I drove straight back to my business partner. I said, we're not bulldozing that place. He said, what are you talking about? I said, bro, this thing's making 14. I mean, it's making almost 40, like $4,500 a month. Now, what I found out later was like the electric was like 1,400. So what we did was we went in, and I realized we went in and we put timers on all of the switches because these guys would turn on the lights
They
and
just
they'd have
walk
their
away.
fan and yeah, walk away. They'd go stay at their girlfriends for 3 days with a lamp, a fan in the window, and the light on for 4 days, 3 days. And so I realized, okay, we're yanking out all these, we're putting in timers, we're putting timers. We had to have an electrician build a box with a timer on it for because they had window rattlers, right? They had the window units.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them didn't even have that. So, and we would put those on in Florida, by the way.
Woo.
And we would say
Woo.
like, oh, you want me to put one of these things in there? And they'd be like, well, what are you going to charge me a week? And I go, well, what do they charge you? He's like, well, the guy charged like 15 extra bucks a week. I don't want to pay that. I'd rather just not have it. I barely stay here anyway. Like some of these guys are staying there because they stay somewhere else, but they need some place to keep their stuff because they can't stay
Their
with their
stuff,
girl.
right? It's kind of like storage.
Right. Well, and maybe they're with some girl, but it's not a good situation. Like
Right.
they fight
Shaky.
and argue. They need some place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, listen, I didn't when that happened, we turned around. We bought like the house next door, turned it into a rooming house. Went and bought it. Like I was like, I'm buying all rooming houses. This is insane. Like these things were such money makers. And I remember the electric went from 1,400 down to like 600 or 700 bucks
When you put the timers on.
within like a month and a half. We put in
Mm-hmm.
low flow toilets. We put in, and the lights we put in. This is before they had LED lights. They used to have something. They were fluorescent bulbs, but they looked like a pig's tail. They were like squiggly. Do you
Yeah.
remember those?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were like $12 or something as opposed to like $1 light. But they
Right.
last for like 4 years and they would
Mm-hmm.
generate like 15 watts of power or 15 watts or 7 watts instead of like to put out like 100 watts of light.
Yep, I remember.
We'd buy those and screw those in. Listen, these guys it was a hilarious situation. Because some of these guys, like they had mental problems. They're in and out of jail. Never had to evict anybody.
That's good.
Yeah, listen, I had one
You
place one time. I had one place one time. We had bought a crappy single family. We turned it into a 4 unit. I mean, renovated the hell out of it. Rented out. It was being rented out for $125 a week. Guy moves in. So one day I meet a guy there at the place. I show him the place. He comes back and he says, okay, here's my first 150 or 125 for the first week and the 125 deposit. Okay. Keep in mind, this is 100% occupancy on all these
okay?
because no, they're not all moving out at the same time ever. So if you got 8 people living there, as soon as somebody moves out, if they just bolt, I'm keeping their deposit.
Right.
You stick a sign in the front yard. You couldn't make it home without somebody calling you and saying, hey, I want to rent it. Like
Right. That's
I
how
lived
fast
down,
people were renting them.
yeah, because they were all basically new. We'd put new stuff in, and they weren't shitholes. Like we didn't have, except
Right.
for that first one I bought. I almost did nothing to that one. But the ones that we've
Right.
renovated, they're new. They've got so. But the one guy, he gives me 125 plus 125 for the deposit. So he leaves. I'm sorry. So I give him the key and I leave. He's happy. That was, let's say, on Friday. So on Sunday, I went to collect rent from the guy next door.
Mm-hmm.
I drive by, knock on the door. Guy opens the door and he goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Here's the 125." I said, "Okay, cool." And he goes, "Hey," he said, "You got somebody to rent next door?" And I went, "No, I rented it." He goes, "Oh, no, no, no." He said, "That dude moved out, bro." He goes, here's the key." He gave me the key back. And I went, "Oh, well, he doesn't get his money back." And he goes, "No, no, no, he's gone. You won't see him again." And I go, "What? Why?" And I said, "What happened?" He goes, "Oh," he said, "Bro," he said, "All right. So there's a newspaper in Florida called the Florida Sentinel, and it's
Okay.
a black owned newspaper for black people.
Right.
What it is." So he goes and gets the Florida Sentinel, and he comes back and the guy's on the front page for a homicide. He said,
Oh.
"Nah, bro." He said to tell you he appreciates you renting the place. Here's the key. Keep the money. He showed him the picture. He goes, "He ain't coming back. He took off." I said, "Oh," I go, "Wow." And I said, "Man," I said, "Okay." So I turn around. I said, "All right, well, I appreciate it." And
Courteous
I go,
murderer.
"I'm about to leave." Well, look, I'm about to leave. And the guy goes, "Do you have somebody?" And I went, "No, you just told me he moved." Like he didn't, I guess he thought he was going to call me or something, but he didn't. So the guy goes,
Mm.
"Hold on." He goes running down the street. He comes back with his cousin and says, "Man, I'll rent it right now." And I said, "Okay, it's 125 plus a 125 deposit." Gave it to him. I said, "Here's the key." I just took his name. I
That fast,
wrote it
huh?
all down. Just like that, got into my car and left. And I was like, these places, like somebody would disappear and like the guy in room number 4 would say, "Hey, by the way, the guy in room number 7, he got arrested. He got into an argument. He stabbed his girlfriend. He's not coming back for a while. So you might as well just rent it out." So we just bag up all of his stuff in garbage bags. We put it in a storage unit. And then like 2 months later, and we'd rent it out within a couple days. And 2 months later, the guy would call you up and say, "Hey, I'm so-and-so. I used to rent number 7. They told me you bagged up my stuff." I'd be like, "Yeah, we got some garbage bags. Well, where you want to meet me? I'll drop them off." And
Man, that's rough. There's for me that would be tough. Be tough for
no, but
me.
listen, it was such a cash cow.
I can imagine. I can
It was
imagine it.
it, you understand what you're dealing with. It's
Yes, you do understand what you're dealing with. I think
yeah,
that's the thing. Is you have to
yeah,
you go into it and you understand what you're dealing with.
right.
For me personally, the way that I'm set up, I couldn't deal with that because a lot of my stuff isn't short term. A lot of my stuff is year leases, right? So and
I
I don't
don't
want any of that type of activity moving around my place
listen. Here's what's funny
at all.
is that that's what you think. You think transient. But the
Right,
truth
right.
is that once, and that is what happens for the first 6 months. But
Yes.
after that, you got 8 rooms, and after 6 months, you might have 1 or 2 people leave a year. And keep in mind,
Mm.
they're not moving their stuff. All the furniture is bolted to the ground. Like you really have a bed
Bolted to the ground.
or to the wall.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've got a dresser, a nightstand, and a bed and a mattress, and because you have to furnish it. And
Right.
keep in mind that all that stuff that we even have in is basically we would make it out of like 2x6s.
Mm.
Not the not the nightstand and that stuff, but like the bed, you make a bed frame out of like 2x6s. You drop the mattress in, and they have so you buy really cheap stuff, and then you go to like Goodwill or whatever, and you get like a um what do you call it, a dresser, and you just bolt it to the walls. Okay, you have to. Not that they'd steal it, but so what ends up happening is you get these clients that just stay there forever. And then the keys are an issue for these people. So you buy something at Home Depot where you have a doorknob and you just push the buttons like 112, and it opens the door and you can open it like, and everything's stainless steel. So what was great is that they were cash cows. And then it was funny. And like I said, if you know what you're dealing with, and I would get these phone calls where guys would call up and say, they don't even know my name. They're calling me like Mr. Rentman, Mr. Rentman, Mr. Rentman. And I go,
I mean, that's good though. I mean,
it's like
I'm a big
11:30 at
component
night.
of that.
It's like 11:30. I'm like, yeah, what's up? This is so and so room number, and they just tell you room number 1. And I
Mhm.
go, and they called the guy Two Face because he actually, they said he had split personality and he got he had a social security disability check. And I go,
Right.
Two-Face. And he go, yeah, it's me, Two-Face. Listen, man, you got to talk to the guy in number 7. He ate my macaroni and cheese. And I go, what? Put him on the phone. I go, did you eat his mac and cheese? Man, I didn't eat that man's mac and cheese. What you talking about? I didn't eat. I go, come on, man. I like some mac and cheese now. I would fuck with him. And then I put the other guy on the phone. I said, can't you just call the police?
That's
He'd say, they won't come anymore. They told us to call you.
they said, forget this. We not
This,
dealing with this
we're
anymore.
done with you guys. But
That's
it,
funny.
listen, it was we never. It's 100% occupancy because they give you the deposit. You don't get your deposit back. And if you don't pay, then they just leave. They do not want you to even make an attempt to evict them because they don't want any problems with the police. They just leave.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I didn't think about that.
They just pack up their stuff and leave.
They just leave. You just go there one day and it's empty.
Yeah. You start the eviction, you put a little note on the front. Well, here's what's really funny. Listen to this. My ex-wife at some point, she went and became a hotel motel operator in the state of Florida.
Okay.
You can license any structure as a transient facility, which is basically what a hotel and a motel is.
Right.
You have to have it inspected. So every 3 years as a hotel motel operator from the state, like you have to have your property inspected. And then the county inspects it once a year. And so there's certain things you have to have. And she explained it, she can explain it. And it's really, honestly, it's a joke. It really is a joke. It's like you have to have a fire extinguisher. At first she tried to put them in the hallway, but they would sell them. They'd steal them and sell them. So then she just put individual ones inside of the rooms.
People steal fire extinguishers?
Well, crackheads steal them and they go sell them for $2. So she would do that. And then you have to have a thing on the inside of the door. You have to have a little thing that shows a diagram of the house and how to get out. You've seen them on the hotel. Got a little star on it. It's got a little red line going how to get outside. So she said you have to have that. And she said, then you have to have your operation, your hotel, your transient license, notification, transient facility, hotel, motel. And then it just says a little thing. We're renting this daily. And then she said, you can't give them a lease. You have them sign a guest registry. And here's the thing. She licensed several of her properties like this. And so what that allows you to do is it allows you to simply call the police and say, this person is rented my place. I want him out. He hasn't paid. I want him out. And you're allowed to pay weekly. You can do it weekly, monthly, and it's still transient.
Okay.
The cops show up. The first few times she said the police would show up, they would argue with her. I'm in a residential neighborhood. You can't have she's like, it's licensed. What are you talking about? I got a license. It's been inspected. I'm perfectly. And they would make phone calls and come back and go, I can't believe this. She'd show them everything and they'd go, because zoning determines what you can build.
Right.
But you can have a licensed motel or hotel anywhere. I didn't build it. I got it licensed as a hotel. And they'd go and knock on the guy's door and say, get your shit, get out. You got to go right now, and throw them right out right then.
That's crazy. You wouldn't think that would be allowed.
No, you know what she said? She said, you only have to do that once. She said, and all of the tenants see it and they know right then. She says, they tell everybody that moves in, oh, no, this is zone. You see that? She'll just throw you out. She don't have to evict you. That's it. It's over. She don't have to evict you, nothing. She'll call the police. They'll throw you out. Are you serious? Absolutely. And she tells them this up front, but in their minds, they don't believe it. Listen, she did that a few times. She says, then I just stopped doing the inspections or anything. She said, because now they all believe it. Now they just leave.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, she's not playing around.
Yeah, playing around, and the notices are up. And yeah, she would come in and check for the fire extinguisher. She's like, oh, they're stealing them and this and that. I'm like, well, you don't get the inspections. And she'd say, yeah, I know I don't get the inspections, but I keep replacing them. She said, so they think
that you're getting the inspections.
You're a horrible person.
Crazy.
Like, you're vicious. Yeah. So there's some tricks there.
Yeah, I see.
I definitely want to get some, do some rooming houses when I as soon as I'm off probation, I'm going to start buying some single family houses, but I'm not going to call them rooming houses. I'm going to call them micro suites or maybe
Mm.
eco units. I'm going to make it sound trendy. Like
Micro units, eco
we're,
suite.
I'm going to do a little, I'll do a little website, a little, and then what I might do too is I'll put in, um, uh, what do they call it? Surveillance cameras, like in the hallways
Right.
and around the facility, the house, around it, and then all the tenants will be allowed to see that, so that gives them a feel like, hey, there's security cameras. It's gonna be
Yeah,
nice.
that's a lot. Yeah, that will be nice. I mean, especially with your following, you may be able to. You'll probably be able to fill that up. I'm pretty sure you have a lot of people who watch you in your local area.
Look, I already have a couple of guys that have bought single family houses and turned them into these. Like, bought this one guy bought a 3 unit, no, sorry, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. He turned the
Mm-hmm.
living room and dining room into bedrooms. So now it's a 5 bedroom, rented it out. They share the bathroom, they share the kitchen. He's making like $1,800 a month in profit. That's after
That's what
pays
what's name
everything.
does. I don't know if you know the YouTuber Spencer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Spencer Cornelius.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
interviewed him.
yeah, you did. I saw you did a interview with him too, and he does the same thing. He's doing that now, where he calls it what does he call it? Is it house? No, it's not house hacking. It's like room hacking or something like that. Or
Well, I have
he
a
calls it
video.
something, but
Same
huh?
thing. I have a video where I talk about it, and I call it something like a real estate hack is the name of.
Yeah, it's called something. And so when you go to his videos, and he sells a course where he talks about it. He even has a new channel that he's making that's like all for like real estate, and he talks about it. And he's really big into that. And so he like rent like currently right now he's renting like rooms to individuals. And sometimes in some of the units he actually builds out, like you were just talking about, the living room turned into a bedroom and all that other stuff. And so he loves it. He says like for him, he thinks it's like the best thing ever. So, like, yeah.
It is because it's some of them I had, they were horrible. They were in horrible areas. You're not going to get decent place if you or decent people, but if you buy in like a lower middle class area and
Mm-hmm.
it's a decent property, like it's not a slum, it's not like you're a slum lord, it's not like a horrific area or a horrible
Right.
house, like it's in good condition, it's all brand new, and you do a decent job of it, then it becomes like, look, where does that guy that works at Tire Kingdom, that's divorced, that has 2 kids, that has to make his child support, you know
Mm-hmm.
where does he cut? He can't cut child support. He can't cut his car payment. He can't cut on the insurance for his kids. He can't, like, your living is where you can cut. So if you say, hey, I need some place to sleep at night while I'm working on paying child support and all these other things that I'm paying,
Right.
where can I cut? Well, your living expenses. And for $110 a month or 120, and listen, if you could rent a place for $100 a week, not a month, you could rent a place for $125 a week, and you
I
don't
thought
pay
you were gonna
electric
say a
or
month. I
water.
was like, that's crazy.
No, that's not. No, I'm in a week.
Yeah.
But you do numbers on 150 times five, times 5 rooms, times 4 weeks in a month. And there's more than 4 weeks. There's 4.3 weeks in a month. But let's say
Yeah.
four. Like, you're basically bringing in like $3,300, and or 33 to $3,500, and you're paying out with water, electric, everything out. You're paying out, with a PITI. If you buy a house for roughly between 100 to 150, depending on your interest rate, you're paying out what, 1,500 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
you're collecting
that
35.
and that's the one of the things that I really try to explain to people. There's just so many ways to do real estate. It really
Yeah,
is. I mean, we talked about Airbnb, the syndication. There's the long term, like what I do. There's just so many ways you can do it. You can do I guess what it's called, like house hacking, where you basically live in it for 1 year, then you rent. There's just so many ways that you can do it. You can live in one unit and have 3 other units, do a fourplex or something. Like there's just so many ways you can cut up real estate, and it doesn't mean that you have to do it one way to be successful. And that's what I'm saying. I think that the message that I push along is that I just want you to if you're gonna jump into this, like you have to understand what the risks are. You have to do the research. You have to know exactly what you're getting into. If you think that you're gonna get into what you're talking about, what I'm talking about, what anybody's talking about, with zero money into it, bad credit, you never did any research at it all, and tomorrow or after a year you're gonna be a millionaire, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. And a lot of people think that. A lot of people think that. They do. They do. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way it is. You know. I mean, even on my course, I have a disclaimer on there where I say like it's not going to be hard. I mean, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. You got to work towards it. And I mean, I get comments on it being like, "Well, why would I buy your course?" I'm just like, well,
Well,
I mean,
go back to your job at Walmart, and it's fine.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. Some people need to work for somebody else, and that's fine. But it's gonna be hard. Like, listen, no millionaire. You're never gonna meet a millionaire out there that's gonna say, "Just kind of fell in my lap. I tried this, it worked. I tried that, it worked. I tried this. Next thing you know, I made $4 million. Who knew?" Stop.
well, I mean, if you go on Instagram, there's tons of guys who will tell you that, and all the people
Yeah.
that watch them believe that and believe that. Oh, this guy just one day I turned around and I had millions and millions of dollars. That's the reason why I'm driving this Lambo. Like,
I was gonna say, and I happen to. What's funny about that is like I know a couple people that live in like these tall skyscrapers in
yeah,
downtown Tampa, and I know a couple. I actually know 3 or 4 guys that have Lambos. I know one guy's got a Lambo and a Ferrari, and I
uh
could go get lots of pictures with those, and I could shoot those videos standing on the balcony of the 35th floor and looking over
yeah,
Tampa, and I could.
yeah.
And you would say, "Man, this guy blew up. He's amazing. I'm gonna buy his course." But the truth is, I'm not gonna do that because that's the kind of behavior that led me to prison to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, good. I'm going a
That would be
different way
true.
this time. But yeah, there are
Yeah,
definitely those guys. Listen,
yeah. There's tons of them.
I really I liked talking to you. I
Yeah, me
appreciate
too,
you
man.
taking the time to do this. What is your what's the name of your oh, you already told me this. It's Orlando Miner. Your
Yeah.
YouTube channel Orlando Miner um is on
Yeah.
YouTube, of course. Well,
Yeah. We talk about housing. We talk about financial news, anything that's really based on the economy, housing, real estate. We talk about it all. So yeah, I come on over if you like that type of stuff. We make it exciting and entertaining. Entertaining. Not talking like a lot of people come on and it feels like when you're talking about real estate, people feel like you have to talk like you're like I'm a teacher at a university, and we try to break it down to where everybody can understand it and throw some funny into there. So people love it.
okay. All right. Do you have Instagram or anything like that?
I do a same thing, same name, Orlando Miner. You'll
Okay.
easily find me on there. Everything across the board is Orlando Miner.
Hey, I appreciate you guys watching. If you like the video, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Also, I'm going to leave all of Orlando's links for his YouTube channel, his Instagram, and anything else he sends me in the description. So just go to the description box, click on it. It'll bring you right there and subscribe. Also, do me a favor, please consider joining my Patreon. I really appreciate that. And leave me a comment and share the video if you think anybody that you know is going to be interested in the video. Thank you guys very much for watching. See ya.